Chapter 24:14. If it weren't for Knight Sorrow's power of virtue protecting him, the weaker skeletons wouldn't have dared to approach. Otherwise, they would have been in a miserable state. Because of the location of the formation gate, more than 10 high-level feather gods have been teleported in, and one of them was Knight Sorrow's acquaintance. It was Feng Jiu, Feng Ling's subordinate. Knight Sorrow had killed Lung Qianxiu in front of him, which had caused the formation to be exposed. What should we do? They were very close and very dangerous. Jingyan used her eyes to communicate with Knight Sorrow. She was clearly panicking. After all, she was too weak. Any one of the dozen or so upper-level feather gods could easily kill her. Don't panic. Let's wait and see, Knight Sorrow replied with his lips. He was relatively calm, but he was still a little worried. Facing more than 10 high-level feather gods alone in such a special environment, Knight Sorrow was confident that he could escape. But with Jingyun, who was a low-level feather god, it wasn't so easy to deal with. He could only choose to bide his time. Boss, why did you gather everyone in such a hurry? Did you find the location of the body-tempering treasured book? Feng Jiu, who was standing on the platform, looked around and didn't find any cultivators around, so she asked in a low voice. The person being asked was a handsome male cultivator. He was Feng Ling's #1 expert. Hearing Feng Jiu's question, Feng looked around and explained, I didn't find the body-tempering treasured book. The array was simply too vast. But a few days ago, someone found Dao Comprehension wine in an area. What? Dao Comprehension wine? Isn't that the companion of the Genesis essence of heaven and earth? So, there might be Genesis essence of heaven and earth in that area? Feng Jiu was overjoyed when she heard Feng Yi's words. There should be, but there's a fire attribute bone dragon nearby that is infinitely close to the level of a supreme god. This bone dragon is too strong, probably on the same level as the 4 great experts. So we have to find more people to snatch the opportunity together, Feng explained to the cultivators present. Everyone killing that bone dragon together? I'm afraid it'll be a little difficult, a green-faced cultivator said. Feng sneered. It's impossible to kill that bone dragon without the 4 great experts, because none of us will be able to break through its defenses. More people will just attract more firepower and create opportunities for others. To think that there might be Genesis essence. Knight Sorrow was rather excited when he heard their conversation. After all, he had drunk Dao Comprehension wine from Mo Yuqian and had heard about Genesis essence. This was a good thing. Although it would be dangerous, it was worth a try. Furthermore, no one was a match for that bone dragon. Whoever could seize the opportunity would depend on luck. Who's there? But right at this moment, Mihao Ian suddenly bellowed at Shiryu, where Knight Sorrow was seated. How was it discovered? Knight Sorrow and Jingyan looked at each other and realized that neither of them had exposed their location nor made sound. In the Endless Bone Realm, one couldn't use their divine soul power. They were so far away, so they should be safe. Do you two think that I won't notice you just because you're standing there? Mihao Ian sneered. At the same time, he shot a glance at the others. After all, Feng had just revealed the matter of the Genesis essence, and it was best to keep it a secret. Not good. We've been discovered. Smell. It's the smell. The enemy camp is especially good at distinguishing smells. Realizing that they had indeed been discovered, Knight Sorrow didn't dare to hesitate any longer. He pulled Jingyan's hand and charged towards the lava. The direction he chose was the opposite of the cave where Ho Lai and the others were hiding. He was afraid that he would implicate them. It's him. He's the one who killed 8 of our high feather gods. Let's go. We can't let him go. Seeing Knight Sorrow clearly, Mihao Ian roared and chased after him, his speed surpassing the others. A low feather god killed 8 of our high feather gods. Feng was clearly taken aback by Mihao Ian's words, but he soon smiled and said, Mihao Ian, you're exaggerating. Exaggerating? I'm definitely not exaggerating. This person can't be left alive. He must be killed immediately. Knight Sorrow's bravery had left a deep impression on Mihao Ian, making a mountain out of a molehill. Feng Jiu and the others didn't take me Hao Ian's words to heart at all. They followed the others and chased after them. Using the advantage of virtue, Night Sorrow and Jing Yan shuttled through the skeletons. However, they were extremely nervous. If they were caught by more than 10 high feather gods, they definitely wouldn't be able to deal with them. Actually, if he didn't bring Jing Yan along, Night Sorrow would have already found a way to shake them off. But unfortunately, Jing Yan's speed was too slow. Oh woo! Hao Yin and the others were getting closer and closer. Before long, they were only 1,000 miles away. At this moment, Night Sorrow heard a heaven-shaking dragon roar coming from a valley ahead. Could it be the fire attribute bone dragon that they were talking about? The dragon roar was extremely shocking, making one's soul tremble. With a thought, Night Sorrow felt that rather than being caught by Hao Yin and the others, he might as well charge into the valley and try his luck. Sprinting into the valley, Night Sorrow discovered that the valley was also filled with lava. However, the terrain was very complicated with many small mountains and crevices. At this moment, a huge creature was flying in the air, spitting out flames. Obviously, it was angered by some cultivators. On the ground, there were dozens of cultivators hiding here and there. However, no matter where they hid, they would be found by the skeletons on the ground. Soon, they became the target of attack again. What a powerful aura! While praising the fire attribute bone dragon, Night Sorrow raised a huge rock and threw it at it. What are you doing? Seeing Night Sorrow's actions, Jing Yan was puzzled. She didn't understand why he would take the initiative to provoke this powerful bone dragon. Naturally, I want to use this bone dragon to make a fuss, to stop the group behind us. Otherwise, how can we shake them off with just us? Night Sorrow explained. This was like driving a tiger to devour a wolf. Whoosh! Without waiting for the two to speak, the bone dragon that was chasing after the others directly spat out a mouthful of flames at Night Sorrow and Jing Yan's location. The flames that covered the sky and earth were very hot. It easily melted a small mountain. Moreover, it didn't burn Night Sorrow and Jing Yan. It completely melted their robes, making them directly naked. Even Night Sorrow's robe of nothingness was melted. If it wasn't for Jing Yan having a special protective divine artifact, she would have been roasted to death. Don't look. Realizing that something was wrong, Jing Yan immediately screamed. Let's go. Night Sorrow didn't care about this. He pulled Jing Yan's hand and dragged her into a crevice. As soon as they disappeared, the bone dragon that was gliding in the sky locked onto Hao Yin and the others. It continuously spat out red flames. We've temporarily avoided the danger, but we're not safe. We're all cultivators. Don't worry too much about certain things. Although Jing Yan's strength wasn't good, her looks were definitely not bad. She was naked and was quite tempting. Night Sorrow, who didn't expect this to happen, was indeed a little embarrassed. He originally wanted to ask Jing Yan how she avoided this disaster, but he was too embarrassed to ask. Chapter 24:15. After a long period of silence, Night Sorrow finally spoke. I just discovered that the bone dragon relies on a group of little skeletons to find its target. We have the power of virtue protecting us, so those skeletons won't find us. We're safe for the time being. But what do we do next? Jing Yan's face was already red from embarrassment as she used her hands to cover her private parts. After cultivating for so many years, this was the first time she had met a male cultivator so openly. This was something unimaginable outside of the Endless Bone region. There are no other cultivators in the crevice we are in. We can follow the crevice to find something that can cover us. Night Sorrow awkwardly said as he took the lead. This way, he would not be able to see Jing Yan's body. However, because of this, Jing Yan, who was following behind, didn't know where to look. There seems to be a life ahead. The crevice was much safer on the surface. After walking a few thousand miles along the wall, Night Sorrow suddenly came to a halt. He saw some green moss on the stone wall not far in front of him. There were traces of dampness on the stone wall where the moss was. There are indeed traces of water. Jing Yan nodded. There was lava and skeletons above, but there are traces of water here. We might be able to find some Tao comprehension wine. Let's hurry over. All right, the more fortunate a place is, the more dangerous it is. We must be careful. Yi Shang, who had given some instructions, once again led the way. After walking for a while, his face lit up, and he said, "The water on the stone wall ahead is very likely Tao comprehension wine. I drank this wine before and remember its smell." The water on the wall gave off a fragrant wine smell. Night Sorrow immediately became excited. But how are we going to collect it? Jing Yun's brows were tightly knitted together. They had walked for a long time in the crevice. Besides the rocks, there was only the moss in front of them. Besides that, the only thing in their hands was the 1,000 catty devil subduing spear that Night Sorrow had borrowed from Zhu Yunxia. There's no rush to collect it. Let's observe first. Let's see if we can find any Genesis essence. The Tao comprehension wine could raise a cultivator's comprehension ability and was indeed very precious, but it was only a companion of the Genesis essence. Now that he had found it, Night Sorrow would naturally prioritize searching for Genesis essence to see if he could find some. This valley had a radius of about 2 million miles, which wasn't too big for cultivators. If they didn't hurry up and search, someone would find this place soon. There seems to only be some moss and some Tao comprehending wine here, Jing Yun said in a slightly regretful tone as she approached the stone wall. Night Sorrow, on the other hand, looked up at the sky. The bone dragon had just flown over, blocking some of the light. When the light returned to normal, he began to observe if there was any water dripping down from the sky, or rather, a drop of enlightenment wine. If it's not dripping from the sky, then there's only one possibility. The wine is seeping out from the stone walls. After observing for a while, Night Sorrow grabbed the 1,000-ton devil-subduing spear, which was still hot to the touch, and thrust it towards the moss. Although the stone walls were as hard as steel, how could they possibly block the 1,000-ton devil-subduing spear? Night Sorrow soon dug a hole the height of a person in the wall and continued forward with Jing Yun. While digging, Night Sorrow discovered that the rocks he cut were becoming more and more moist, while the smell of alcohol was also growing stronger. We might very well find something big. As Night Sorrow continued to dig in the darkness, the smell of alcohol made him increasingly clear-headed, his thoughts becoming clearer and clearer. He felt very comfortable, as if his comprehension ability had also increased. Following behind him, Jing also felt very comfortable as she gratefully said, "Night Sorrow, I really have to thank you this time. If not for you, I wouldn't have been able to find such a blessing. These things are still nothing. They can't even be considered as blessings." In response, Night Sorrow shook his head and continued to dig. He felt that only the Genesis essence was truly good stuff. After digging for nearly 10,000 miles, the duo's vision suddenly opened up. They had entered a lush green world. There was blue sky and light, as well as numerous towering ancient trees. Between the ancient trees was some green grass, making it look similar to a mountain forest. However, these ancient trees were all over 10,000 meters tall, making them very tall and straight. Not far in front of them was an ancient tree that reached straight into the clouds, making it impossible to see its crown. If I'm not wrong, the tallest tree in front of us should be the World Tree. Night Sorrow had come into contact with a World Tree before. He frowned and said, "Let's stay a little further away from that World Tree. Such ancient trees are usually guarded by divine beasts." "Okay, I'll use the leaves to make 2 sets of clothes first." Jing Yun, who was following behind Night Sorrow, took some green leaves from a nearby tree and made 2 sets of clothes that could temporarily cover their bodies. After putting on the clothes, the two of them looked very spirited, and the awkward atmosphere eased a lot. Jing Yun smiled and said, "Wearing these leaves really makes us feel like we've blended into this world. I feel the same way. I feel much more comfortable wearing these leaves. Let's go find the source of the enlightenment wine." Night Sorrow said, but just as he was about to leave, he pushed Jing Yun down into the grass and mouthed, "Someone's coming. Looks like we're not the only ones who've found this place." "Okay." Jing Yun blushed slightly as Night's sorrow pressed her down. However, her body-tempering strength was probably the weakest in the entire formation. Hearing that someone was coming, she didn't dare to move. She could only cooperate with Night's sorrow and lie on the ground, using the grass to hide her body. Ahead to the left, there are 5 people 10,000 miles away. They're hiding behind a tree. Directly ahead, 20,000 miles away, there are 7 cultivators. They're squatting behind a huge rock, also choosing not to make a move. There are people everywhere. I'm afraid there are no less than 100 cultivators who've found this place. We're the weakest. Night's sorrow, who was lying on the ground without making a sound, was relatively far from the world tree. He focused on listening to everything around him. The towering world tree was very lush, and everyone's focus was on it. However, they chose not to make a move for the time being. After 3 days, more and more cultivators found this place. Finally, someone couldn't wait any longer and crept toward the world tree. Everyone was watching, so no one made a move to stop the group of 4. However, everyone was prepared to make a move. Oh, when the 4 of them were still 1,000 miles away from the world tree, a fierce beast that looked like a tiger but had fleshy wings suddenly rushed out from the world tree. This fierce beast had 2 light golden dragon horns on its forehead, and its mouth was like an eagle's beak. It looked very ferocious. When it charged toward the 4 cultivators, its body glowed red. It's so fast, this is at least half a step into the immortal realm. It's not inferior to the bone dragon outside. The fierce beast was very fast. The 4 immortal realm cultivators were torn to shreds in the blink of an eye. Some cultivators whispered, but this aroused its ferocity. It turned into a streak of light and attacked again. Seeing this fierce beast continue to attack, even Night's sorrow became nervous. There were many cultivators present, but they couldn't work together to deal with this fierce beast. They were likely to be defeated one by one. Chapter 24:16. Roar. The speed and attack power of the ferocious beast was astonishing. It was even more terrifying than the fire tribute bone dragon outside. Under its crazy attack, 2 more cultivators were killed in a moment. Their bodies were torn apart, and they ended up in a miserable state. The choking smell of blood spread out. The ancient forest, which was originally green and did not seem to be dangerous, suddenly became jittery. No cultivator was not nervous. They were afraid that they would be chosen as the next target. This ferocious beast is too strong. It should be difficult to fight against it. The ferocious beast was very cruel. Many hidden cultivators had already begun to feel their scalps tingle. Night's sorrow and Jingyan also looked at each other. They even concealed their auras and did not dare to make any sound. The small world suddenly became extremely quiet. Only the sound of the ferocious beast chewing could be heard. A powerful cultivator at the upper level of the Feather God realm was eaten just like that. The deterrence was too great. Oh no! Run! Run! A moment later, a small group of 5 cultivators suddenly rushed out from behind an ancient tree and began to flee in different directions. It turned out that the ferocious beast went berserk again after eating the flesh and blood of a few cultivators. Although the small group of 5 fled in different directions, they were all torn apart by the ferocious beast in less than 10 breaths. None of them escaped. Its speed was too fast, and its attacks were so sharp that no one could stop it. This is not a treasure ground. It's simply a hunting ground for ferocious beasts. One of the 5 people died, less than 100 miles away from Night's sorrow. He felt his scalp explode. He lowered his head nervously and did not look at the ferocious beast. He was afraid that the ferocious beast would discover them with its vigilance. Night's sorrow had not been so nervous for many years. However, if the ferocious beast attacked, he would definitely fight to the death and protect Jingyan. Although he was not as strong as the ferocious beast, he could not completely resist like the other cultivators. Crunch, crunch. The ferocious beast soon began to chew on the cultivators closest to Night's sorrow. Hearing the hair-raising sound, Night's sorrow and Jingyan almost burrowed into the soil. In addition to the leaves on their bodies, they were also covered in thick mud. The most terrifying thing would happen. After the ferocious beast finished chewing, it roared into the sky and suddenly charged towards Yishang and Jingyun. Not good. This beast. Oh no. Night Sorrow and Jingyun's hearts were in their throats at the same time, especially Jingyun. If Night Sorrow still had a chance to escape, then she definitely had no chance at all. Don't move. I'll distract it. Once it's taken away by me, you can return the way you came. At this critical moment, Night Sorrow raised his 1,000-ton demon subduing spear and stood up to strike. It was impossible for him to surrender without putting up a fight. What? So the target wasn't me. The speed of the ferocious beasts was simply too fast. By the time Night Sorrow stabbed out with his spear, the ferocious beasts had already passed through their position and were heading towards the cultivators further away. Night Sorrow stood up and looked around. He suddenly felt a little awkward. Seeing that Night Sorrow wasn't attacked, but stood up, some people almost laughed out loud. No, we can't just sit here and wait for death. Jingyun, follow me. Night Sorrow, whose body had already been exposed, had already confirmed one thing in the process just now. The ferocious beasts probably relied on smell or aura to find cultivators. As long as the aura was different from the one in the forest, no matter how they hid, they would be discovered. He and Jingyun were wearing leaves and had the aura of soil all over their bodies. Therefore, they weren't discovered and thus escaped the disaster. Originally, they could have hidden for a while longer, but now that Night Sorrow had stood up, they would definitely be exposed. It was impossible to continue hiding. Rushing directly towards the Tree of World would obviously attract the ferocious beast's attacks. In a moment of desperation, Night Sorrow used his 1,000-ton demon subduing spear to dig in the ground. The ferocious beasts were indeed fast in the ancient forest. There was no way to escape. Night Sorrow felt that the only chance was to dig a hole to hide. Faster, faster, faster. It's coming. Night Sorrow had already tried his best to dig down, but before he could dig down 1,000 meters, the ferocious beasts pounced over, scaring Jingyun so much that she screamed. Its huge head appeared at the entrance of the bright cave. Oh, the ferocious beast that had discovered its target was extremely manic. It kept digging with its claws. Although its body wasn't big, it was digging down very quickly. It brought a lot of pressure to Night Sorrow and Jingyun, especially Jingyun. She could see the ferocious beast's huge head when she turned her head and smelled the thick scent of blood. I want to be fast too, but I've reached my limit. Night Sorrow was also anxious. With the ferocious beast blocking their way underground, they had no space to hide. We can't. It's catching up. Seeing that the ferocious beast was getting closer and closer, Jingyun shouted anxiously. Hide behind me. Night Sorrow, who knew that it wasn't a good idea to dig randomly, shielded Jingyun behind him. He held his spear and waited for the ferocious beast. When the distance was shortened to 100 meters, Night Sorrow made up his mind and used his 1,000-ton demon subduing spear to stab with all his might. This spear pierced through time and space like a flash of lightning. In an instant, it went straight for the ferocious beast's throat. Although you're fast and have high attack power, you can't be so fearless against my 1,000-ton demon subduing spear. In the battle 2 years ago, Night Sorrow had used this 1,000-ton demon subduing Ling Tian, who was close to becoming a half-deity. Although this ferocious beast looked very powerful, it wasn't at the level of a great deity. In such a narrow area underground, it couldn't take advantage of its speed and could only take this attack head-on. Boom! The ferocious beast didn't dodge. Instead, it used its huge claws to attack the 1,000-ton demon subduing spear. When the two collided, the entire ground caved in. The impact of their collision was so great that it caused the ground to sink for thousands of miles. Roar! The ferocious beast that was buried underground quickly rose to the sky and drilled out of the ground. There were obvious bloodstains on its claws. Obviously, it was injured by Night Sorrow's spear. Although it was fast and had high attack power, its defense was much weaker than the fire attribute Bone Dragon. At this time, many cultivators wanted to take the opportunity to escape the forest. The ferocious beast, enraged by its injuries, began to slaughter even more fiercely. That ferocious beast doesn't seem to have any intelligence. It chases after whoever it sees. This is our chance. Knight's Sorrow, who thought that the ferocious beast wouldn't be able to recover after injuring it, was relieved to see it wreaking havoc on the ground again. Let's get out of here quickly. If it wasn't for Knight Sorrow's attack, the two of them would have been torn apart by the ferocious beast. Knight Sorrow's 1,000-ton demon subduing spear was already a threat to a half-deity. It was no wonder that it could kill Ling Tian in one move. Jingyan looked at Yishang with surprise and confusion. She didn't know how a low-level feather god like him had managed to do this. Hey, listen, I think I hear water. Knight Sorrow, who had exchanged a blow with the ferocious beast, felt his arm go numb. However, he continued to dig with the 1,000-ton demon subduing spear. After digging for about 10,000 meters, he suddenly heard the sound of water and smelled the scent of Tao Comprehension wine. Knight Sorrow, who originally wanted to find a way out of here, suddenly had a different idea. He quickly dug in the direction of the sound of water. The closer he got, the stronger the scent of Tao Comprehension wine. Chapter 24:17. What a strong smell of wine. I think I'm a bit drunk. Arriving in front of the moist stone wall, Jing Yun's cheeks and neck flushed red. She was intoxicated by the wine. She felt that the aura of the Tao Comprehension wine was too strong. Are you all right? This caused Yishan to be slightly surprised, because at the beginning, he felt that the smell of Tao Comprehension wine was getting stronger and stronger, but now he felt that this smell had faded quite a bit. I'm fine. I think I've encountered a fortuitous opportunity. Knight Sorrow, thank you for bringing me here. Jingyan sat cross-legged on the ground as she spoke. Soon, a dense halo appeared around her, giving her a sense of holiness. The Tao comprehending wine qi in the surroundings all gathered towards her. Looks like I'll have to stand guard for you. Knight Sorrow didn't disturb Jingyan and stood nearby to guard her. Not long after, 3 high feather gods appeared. Seeing Jing Yun's sacred and inviolable appearance, they revealed greedy eyes. However, the 3 of them quickly fled under Knight Sorrow's powerful attack. A spear that could even injure a half-step high god was not something they could take head-on. Just like that, 2 months passed in a flash. Knight Sorrow drove away 3 waves of cultivators. Jing Yun was still cultivating, but the sounds on the ground were even more intense. Clearly, more cultivators had arrived, and a great battle had broken out. It was unknown whether it was a battle between cultivators and beasts, or a battle between cultivators. This can't go on. Another 7 days passed. Jing Yun was still cultivating, but the frequency of cultivators appearing in the vicinity was increasing. This gave Knight Sorrow considerable pressure. One day, a low roar came from the ground. It sounded like a beast. It must have been attacked, as it let out a painful roar. The beast's roar was frightening. Jing Yun, who was in the middle of cultivation, groaned and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. Knight Sorrow wanted to ask her how she was, but he didn't say anything for fear of disturbing her. At this time, the halo around Jing Yun suddenly brightened and turned into a red flame. The leaves and soil around her were immediately incinerated. Jing Yun's entire body became naked in the fire. This, Knight Sorrow, who had taken a few extra glances because he was worried about her, couldn't help but turn his face away, silently cursing himself for looking at indecent things. Knight Sorrow, thank you. You can turn around now, and we can continue forward. Suddenly, Jing Yun spoke. All right, let's continue searching for opportunities. Knight Sorrow, who had turned around, discovered that Jing Yun's entire body was bathed in flames. She was no longer exposed. This was somewhat special. Are you curious? As they continued to walk along the stone wall, Jing Yun smiled and said, although I'm in human form, I have the bloodline of the true phoenix. The Tao Comprehension wine just now made my bloodline evolve. Even though I'm still a lesser feather god body refiner, the flames around my body have greatly improved my body refinement abilities. His current body refining power shouldn't be inferior to that of ordinary mid-level feather god body refiners. Then I really have to congratulate you. Night Sorrow congratulated her, but because of Jing Yun's words, he thought of someone, Wu Lingfei, who possessed the bloodline of the Golden Phoenix. Aunt Fei, I wonder how you're doing now. Become stronger. He needed to continue becoming stronger quickly. Thinking of this, Night Sorrow felt that he didn't have a single second to waste. Night Sorrow, is there something on your mind? Jing Yun asked when she saw Night Sorrow's heavy expression. I thought of a relative. She has the bloodline of the Golden Phoenix. After explaining, Night Sorrow didn't say anything else. He used the 1,000 Catty Demon subduing spear to shatter the stone wall in front of him. Before Jing Yun started cultivating, they had heard the sound of water. This proved that there was definitely something else behind the stone wall. As expected, after Night Sorrow's attack, water flowed out from the wall. However, the Tao Comprehension wine's smell had become very thin. It was probably because Jing Yun had just absorbed it. Night Sorrow continued to wield the 1,000 Catty Demon subduing spear as he dug deeper into the stone wall. The originally dripping water gradually became turbulent. Night Sorrow asked, "There's an underground river here. I want to go in and explore to see if there's any Genesis essence. Is it suitable for you to enter in your current state?" Of course. I can retract my flames at any time. The flames on Jing Yun's body were naturally not afraid of water, but there might be something in the underground river. Her body was covered in flames and would be too conspicuous and easily attract attacks. When Jing Yun shyly retracted her flames, the two dove into the underground river together. The water in the underground river was extremely cold, and the pressure was especially great. The two had just dove down 20,000 meters when Jing Yun felt that she couldn't bear it anymore. Without using her flames, she was only a lower-level feather godbody refiner. Night Sorrow, I don't seem to be able to continue. I've gained a lot this time, and I'm already satisfied. Why don't I wait for you here? After diving down another 1,000 meters, Jing Yun finally couldn't bear it anymore and stopped. All right, then find a place to hide and keep the twin shells. Call me if you need anything. Night Sorrow glanced back at Jing Yun and felt that it wasn't appropriate for him to look at her. He hurriedly turned his head and continued diving. When he thought of Wu Lingfei, his desire to become stronger swelled. After diving down 50,000 meters, Night Sorrow also felt that he had reached his limit. However, he once again sensed the aura of the Tao Comprehension wine. It was in the depths of the underground river. At the same time, the surrounding temperature began to plummet. Mo Yuqian had once said that such a situation was very likely caused by Genesis essence. There's definitely Genesis essence down there, but I don't know how much. His body really couldn't bear it anymore. Night Sorrow put up a barrier of virtue power and continued diving. After diving down 108,000 meters, he finally saw the bottom of the underground river. There really is Genesis essence, and there are as many as 5 drops. I've really stumbled upon an opportunity this time. Night Sorrow immediately saw a spring the size of a well on the ground. Around the spring were 5 drops of green water. The energy in these water drops was very pure, and they emitted a fragrance that was even stronger than the Tao Comprehension wine. It was obviously Genesis essence. According to the records, 10 drops of Genesis essence could cleanse a cultivator's entire body and strengthen their body by several times. Seeing the 5 drops in front of him, Night Sorrow's lips curled into a smile. However, right at this moment, his expression changed. At the bottom of the river, 1,000 meters away from the Genesis essence, there was a 10,000-meter tall mountain in the shape of a coiled black dragon. Night Sorrow couldn't see through the black dragon's body refinement level, but it had clearly surpassed the feather god level. It gave off a huge pressure. It was clearly much stronger than the bone dragon and the tiger-shaped beast. Night Sorrow felt that it was even stronger than the Nether River. What should I do? The Genesis essence is right in front of me. Should I snatch it or not? This coiled dragon was definitely stronger than the average high god. However, it didn't seem to have any intention of attacking Night Sorrow, but he wasn't sure if it would attack him if he tried to take the Genesis essence. Forget it. I'll go all out. Chapter 24:18. Night Sorrow was not too far from the bottom of the river, only 1,000 meters or so. The Genesis essence was right in front of him. As he swam downstream, Night Sorrow kept his eyes on the coiled black dragon. But soon after, he felt that something was wrong. The black dragon had not moved. However, when he was still 500 meters from the bottom of the river, the pressure on Night Sorrow's body was almost unbearable. Although he was protected by the power of virtue, cracks had already appeared on the surface of his body, making him look like a porcelain doll that would shatter with a single tap. A treasure like the Genesis essence is indeed not easy to obtain. The short distance of a few hundred meters was like a natural chasm that was extremely difficult to cross. As he continued to swim, Night Sorrow felt as if his body was about to explode. However, in order to become stronger and better protect his family, he continued to persevere. I'm close. The Genesis essence. I'm coming. Night Sorrow's condition was very bad, but he continued to persevere. As he neared the Genesis essence, he immediately felt a strong life force, and his injuries felt much better. It's good stuff indeed. Without any hesitation, Night Sorrow collected the first drop of Genesis essence before reaching for the second drop. However, it was at this moment that the motionless black dragon suddenly let out a manic roar as it lifted its tail and whipped it at Night Sorrow. Although they were in the water, the attack was too fast to dodge. Night Sorrow's body was almost smashed to pieces by the dragon's tail. Fuck, it's a sneak attack. After being swept by the black dragon, Night Sorrow immediately felt a tearing pain that he had not felt in a long time. However, it was too late for him to dig a hole and escape. Without waiting for Night Sorrow to ponder, the black dragon let out another roar. This time, it used a sound wave attack in an attempt to shatter Night Sorrow's body. Damn worm, if you want me dead, I'll definitely kill you myself if I have the chance. Night Sorrow's body began to crack at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a moment of desperation, Night Sorrow cursed as he hurriedly collected the 3 drops of Genesis essence and dove into the spring. What Night Sorrow didn't expect was that as soon as he entered the mouth of the spring, he entered another world. This world was very simple. It had a radius of a few hundred meters, and there was only a teleportation array and a green pool. This pool, even someone as knowledgeable as Night Sorrow was stunned by the sight before him. The 10-meter wide pool before him was completely filled with Genesis essence. Night Sorrow, whose body was almost torn apart by the black dragon, plunged in without a second thought. The Genesis essence in the pool was not as solid as it was on the outside, allowing Night Sorrow to sink into it. As soon as he was swallowed by the pool, Night Sorrow felt his body rapidly recover. His body strength was also constantly increasing. Soon, Night Sorrow was completely immersed in this comfortable feeling and fell into a deep sleep. 1 year, 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, 3,000 years quickly passed in this sleep. Night Sorrow had consumed a large amount of Genesis essence in the pool, but he still didn't wake up. It was as if he had lost consciousness. He was still asleep. Lord Night Sorrow, please wake up. Please wake up. Yuan Shinro, the 73rd disciple of the treasure-gathering pavilion, was resting in Night Sorrow's spatial artifact. When she saw that Night Sorrow still hadn't woken up after the Genesis essence was completely consumed, she immediately called out his name. Who's calling me? Yishan's mind buzzed when he was called, and he woke up with a start. Lord, it's me. Yuan Shinro softly replied. I didn't expect that saving you would be so useful. Thank you for waking me up. Otherwise, I don't know when I would have woken up. After waking up, Night Sorrow suddenly felt some lingering fear as he recalled what had happened. Although the Genesis essence was a good thing, the amount of medicinal efficacy he had obtained from using it was too great. His body had symptoms of being poisoned, causing him to be unable to wake up. If Yuan Shinro hadn't called out to him, who knew how many years he would have slept? Although it wouldn't harm his body, he would have missed out on many important things. It's because of Lord's kindness that this happened. Not only did you obtain an opportunity, but you also woke up at the right time. Within the spatial artifact, Yuan Shinro's voice was filled with envy. She already knew that the Genesis essence was a good thing, but she could only watch Night Sorrow enjoy it because she couldn't leave the spatial artifact. However, she immediately felt relieved. This was Night Sorrow's opportunity, not hers. Don't worry, I won't forget your kindness today. After strengthening my body, I should be able to leave the Endless Bone region very soon. As long as I leave the Endless Bone region, you will regain your freedom. Night Sorrow first thanked Yuan Shinro before asking, "How long have I slept?" His body was already at the intermediate feather god level, and the strength of his body had increased by another level. It's already been 3,000 years. Yuan Shinro truthfully replied. What? 3,000 years? I wonder how Jing Yun, Ho Lai, and the others are doing. Night Sorrow's head shook when he heard this. He hurriedly searched for the twin shell, but found that it had already been lost. It should have been lost when the black dragon attacked. He had agreed to let Jing Yun, Ho Lai, and the others wait for him, but he didn't expect to have slept for 3,000 years. It's been 3,000 years. I'm afraid that the scripture that can refine one's body has already been snatched away. Night Sorrow shook his head. What he was most concerned about now was the safety of Jing Yun, Ho Lai, Geng Chun, Zhu Yunxia, and the others. He immediately prepared to leave and inquire about them. You've also been strengthened. At this moment, Night Sorrow noticed that the originally black 1,000-kilogram devil-subduing spear had turned a bluish-green color similar to the Genesis essence. It looked like black iron had turned into jade. It should have absorbed a lot of Genesis essence. Its hardness and weight had also undergone a huge change. It was likely that the Endless Bone Realm would attract a lightning tribulation. The Endless Bone Realm's laws were incomplete. Although the time laws were very special, and 1 year was equivalent to 10,000 years in the God world, it couldn't be cultivated. There was also no divine Yuan Qi and no lightning tribulation. This time, Night Sorrow tightly grasped the 1,000-kilogram devil-subduing spear and felt as if his heart and soul were connected. Although this wasn't his weapon, Night Sorrow still felt very excited. He felt as if his companion was growing alongside him. Phew, it's time to go out. After calming down for a moment, Night Sorrow exhaled and began to check the small domain to see if there was any more Genesis essence. He only found 3 solid drops, which are the 3 drops he had brought in. The small domain was sealed, and he couldn't find the way back to the spring. Night Sorrow could only hold the 1,000-kilogram devil-subduing spear and step onto the teleportation array beside the spring. A moment later, Night Sorrow appeared on the platform at the entrance of the array. It was unknown what kind of battle had occurred on the platform, but it was completely dyed red with blood. Moreover, there were no large craters, and it no longer looked the same as before. Countless deep craters had been blasted into the stone steps, and the number of skeletons had also increased by several times. It was obvious that many cultivators had died here and turned into skeletons without intelligence. Night Sorrow's body refinement had reached the intermediate feather god stage, and he could obtain the power of virtue from killing skeletons. However, he did not do so. Instead, he immediately went to the cave to look for Ho Lai and the others. However, the cave was still there, but there was no one there. Unable to find Ho Lai and the others, Night Sorrow followed the original path to look for Jing Yun, but returned empty-handed. He also didn't see the fire attribute bone dragon or the tiger-shaped beast. Even the world tree was nowhere to be seen. There were traces of a great battle everywhere. What happened in the past 3,000 years? With heavy doubts, Night Sorrow left the array and rushed towards West Abyss City. Chapter 2419. West Abyss City was originally a city with more than 100,000 cultivators, but now it was all in ruins. The city was full of skeletons without intelligence. They would fight from time to time, and the scene was very chaotic. There was not a single living cultivator in the entire city, but there were many bloodstains on the ground. It was obvious that a great battle had taken place. West Abyss City was Jing Hong's territory. It seems that it has been destroyed, and the entire city has been massacred. I wonder how Jing Yun and Ho Lai are now. Seeing the terrible scene in front of him, a trace of worry flashed through Knight Sorrow's heart. He did not stay for long and rushed to East Valley City on a more familiar path. This is the Python King. Still some distance away from the valley where East Valley City was, Knight Sorrow saw a huge black python hanging at the entrance of the valley. There were many wounds on its body. These wounds were dripping with blood, making it look bloody. There were 7 or 8 cultivators sitting around a stone table, eating roasted meat. When the meat was finished, they cut off a few pieces from the python's body and continued to roast them over the fire. Say, this Python King's vitality is really tenacious. It's still not dead after being cut off for 3,000 years. How many meals have we eaten this roasted meat? A monkey-like cultivator sneered as he looked at the dying Python King. There was a hint of cruelty in his eyes. This bastard killed Fox and pissed us off. It's only been 3,000 years. How can it be over? As long as we don't leave the Endless Bone region, we'll continue to torture him. Another male cultivator with a thick, evil aura between his brows revealed a sinister smile. It's a pity that the culprit behind him escaped. Otherwise, I would have hung the two of them together and let everyone in East Valley City eat their flesh. I reckon he died in the Great Formation 3,000 years ago. Even if we want to avenge Fox and the others, we won't have the chance. Otherwise, I'll make him suffer a fate worse than death. The monkey-faced cultivator Huang Ho's face was full of hatred. He really missed the coquettish Fox when he thought about it. That's not necessarily true. Maybe he's a coward. When he heard that you and I are here to block him, he hid himself and didn't dare to show his face. Lai Yin, whose face was full of evil aura, said with a sinister tone, "Bah, just based on the few of you, how could you possibly be a match for His Excellency? If His Excellency returns, all of you will die." The dying Xiaocoatl King said with disdain when it heard their arrogant talk. The several cultivators in front of him had already said the same words no less than 10,000 times. He was tired of hearing them. "Io, today was a good day." This reptile actually spoke. Hearing the Xiaocoatl King's words, the cultivators all stood up and surrounded him, each using weapons such as sabers and spears to torture him. One of the cultivators used a saber to cut off a large chunk of flesh from the Anaconda King's head. He taunted, "Since your boss is so powerful, hurry up and show him to us." Hiss! The bloodied Xiaocoatl King trembled as it panted. It wanted to retort, but it no longer had the strength. "Quick! This guy can't hold on any longer. Don't let it die." A cultivator took out a bottle and poured out some spirit liquid, giving the Python King another breath of life. When the Anaconda King recovered slightly, they continued to talk and laugh as they cut off its flesh. "You bastards! Stop right now." Knight Sorrow, who was still tens of thousands of miles away, roared before he arrived. Seeing the Xiaocoatl King being tortured to such a state, he was enraged. Without the Python King, he would not have known about the Great Formation and obtained the Genesis essence of heaven and earth. Moreover, Knight Sorrow had said that as long as he was in the Endless Bone region, he would take care of the Python King. How could he not be angry when he saw the Python King being tortured to such a state? "Io, here comes someone who's not afraid of death." "Stop. You think I'll stop just because you tell me to?" Huang Ho made a deep cut on the Python King's abdomen. He teased, "Python King, your boss is here. Wake up." Me boss? It's really you." The Python King's eyes were filled with blood, but Knight Sorrow was already close. He could vaguely tell. "It's me. No one will bully you in the future." Knight Sorrow tried his best to control his trembling voice. His anger had been completely ignited. Killing someone was nothing more than a nod of the head, but these cultivators were so cruel. "Boss, it's really you." Hearing the conversation between the Python King and Knight Sorrow, the malicious-looking male cultivator, Lai Yin, immediately released a powerful aura. The others also showed resentful expressions and opened their mouths to curse. Huang Ho wielded his saber and attacked Night Sorrow. You didn't take the path to heaven, but barged into hell. The Python King now will be you tomorrow. He was a mid-level feather god and wasn't the strongest among the cultivators. However, seeing that Night Sorrow was also a mid-level feather god, he didn't hold back and slashed with his saber. This saber was extremely vicious and carried a frightening cold light. The saber was dripping with blood. Tomorrow? You don't have to think about it anymore, because your life will end today. These cultivators were incomparably vicious and had committed atrocities that infuriated both the heavens and the people. Yishan had no intention of showing mercy at all. He took out his 1,000-kilogram devil-vanquishing spear and blasted this monkey-faced cultivator into a bloody mist. What? So strong? Seeing this scene, the remaining cultivators all became nervous. Among them, 4 were upper feather gods and 3 were intermediate feather gods. However, none of them could kill the monkey-faced cultivator, Huang Ho, in one blow. Huh, Huang Ho, weren't you very arrogant? Why did you turn into a mist? Huang Ho was killed by Night Sorrow in one blow. The Python King shouted to vent his anger, but his body was in so much pain that it twitched. Since we've drawn out your so-called boss, you've lost all value. I'll kill you first. Lai Yin roared and swung his sword at the Python King's head. I'll kill you first. In the next moment, Night Sorrow swung his spear. The spear was launched later, but arrived first. No one could see it clearly before the upper feather god. Lai Yin was killed in one blow. Just like Huang Ho, he was blasted into a bloody mist. Before using the Genesis essence of heaven and earth to strengthen his body, Night Sorrow had killed a top-notch upper feather god, Ling Tian, in one blow. Now that he had been strengthened, his body's strength had taken a qualitative leap. Although he had not experienced a strong enemy yet, Night Sorrow felt that those below the upper feather god level should not be a threat to him. He should be able to kill an ordinary upper feather god in one blow without using the forbidden spear art. What? He's so strong. He's already not inferior to the former 4 great experts. We can't fight him head-on. Run. As long as we escape back to the valley, we'll have a chance. Lord Li Yuan is in the city. When the cultivators saw Night Sorrow kill Lai Yin with one blow, they were scared out of their wits and completely lost the will to resist. Want to escape? Where do you think you're going? After Night Sorrow advanced to an intermediate feather god, his speed had increased by several times. These people could not compare to him. In a moment, he killed another 2 cultivators who wanted to escape. Help! Lord Li Yuan, help! Enemy attack! Enemy attack! An upper feather god shouted in the direction of East Valley City as he fled. The distance was not far. Soon, a violent roar came from East Valley City. Who dares to invade my East Valley City? Do you want to die? My lord, run. This was one of the former 4 great experts, Northern Desert City's Li Yuan. He has now surrendered to Feng Ling. He became Feng Ling's dog. He even gave up his wife and daughter. Hearing Li Yuan's voice coming from East Valley City, the Python King used all his strength to remind Night Sorrow. Even Li Yuan surrendered to Feng Ling. He had the last laugh in the Great Array 3,000 years ago. During the process of questioning, Night Sorrow continued to kill the fleeing cultivators. He had many things to ask about the past. After killing a few cultivators who wanted to escape, Night Sorrow lowered the mangled Python King from the air. He also gave it a drop of Genesis essence so that it could quickly save itself. Night Sorrow knew that the Python King had been tortured for 3,000 years. If it was not treated with a rare treasure, it would not be able to recover. Chapter 24:20. Bastard, how dare you be so fierce in front of me? What? How dare you ignore me? Who do you think you are? Li Yuan, who was still some distance away from the valley entrance, flew into a rage when he saw Night Sorrow not only kill several people in succession, but also ignore him to treat the Python King. Feng Ling had won the battle for the body-tempering treasure tome and successfully broke through to the body-tempering high god realm 1,000 years after obtaining the tome. Since then, he had begun to conquer the four directions. The first person to be conquered was Li Yuan. After his territory was washed with blood, he knelt in front of Feng Ling and begged for mercy. He even gave his wife and daughter to Feng Ling for pleasure in order to save his life. In the end, Feng Ling asked him to lead all the surrendered cultivators to guard East Valley City and ordered them to never take a step closer to the sky-reaching Bone Tower to prevent him from leaving the Endless Bone region. Li Yuan had been suppressing his anger all this time and had nowhere to vent it. In terms of strength, Feng Ling, who had broken through to the body-tempering high god realm, was much stronger than him. Li Yuan had completely lost the will to resist. Today, someone had invaded East Valley City, which gave him a chance to release his anger. However, Yishang ignored him and continued to help the Python King recover. In the past 3,000 years, the Python King had suffered too much. Even though they did not have deep feelings for each other, Yishang still felt sorry for him. "My lord, what did you give me?" The Python King, who had thought that he was going to die, suddenly became excited when he saw his body recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. After being tortured for 3,000 years, he thought that he would definitely die. One must know that Li Yuan was once one of the invincible experts in the Endless Bone region. In the hearts of many cultivators, he was undefeatable. Genesis essence of heaven and earth. Night Sorrow had only brought 3 drops of Genesis essence of heaven and earth. He had given one to the Python King and diluted the other to heal the Python King. He had used 2 drops in one go. Using 2 drops of Genesis essence of heaven and earth to heal the half-step God Realm Python King was quite extravagant. Most likely, none of the half-step God Realm cultivators in the Endless Bone region had ever enjoyed such treatment. What? This is Genesis essence of heaven and earth? This is Genesis essence of heaven and earth? Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, the Xiaocotl King cried out in excitement. It even felt that the 3,000 years of suffering were worth it. After using the Genesis essence of heaven and earth, the Python King's body cultivation level rose to the lower feather god stage in an instant. Moreover, it was much stronger than an ordinary lower feather god. Thank you, sir, for your guidance. The Python King, who had returned to his human form after Night Sorrow put him down, knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times. Night Sorrow's generosity was rarely seen in other powerhouses. He was now very glad that he had made the decision back then. "You were implicated because of me and suffered so much. It's only right that you get some benefits. Now that you've obtained 2 drops of Genesis essence, your body's talent has greatly increased. Cultivate well in the future." Night Sorrow helped the Xiaocotl King up and gave him some instructions. However, his mood was heavy. He was worried about Jing Yun and the others. Li Yuan had just arrived at this moment. He was enraged when he heard that Night Sorrow had given the Genesis essence to the Python King, and 2 drops at that. With a gloomy face, he roared, "Damn it! You're wasting such a treasure. You actually used 2 drops of Genesis essence on an ant." Li Yuan, who had been in the Endless Bone region for countless years, had only obtained 8 drops of Genesis essence. He still lacked 2 drops to strengthen his entire body. Night Sorrow disdainfully said, "It's a waste to use it on you. A piece of trash who sacrificed his wife and daughter for his own life." Family held the most important position in Night Sorrow's heart. He absolutely despised Li Yuan, who had given his wife and daughter to Feng Ling to play with. "You're courting death. Do you really think that I, Li Yuan, am someone that anyone can provoke? You intermediate feather god ant." Li Yuan, who was already furious, twisted his face when he heard Night Sorrow's mockery. He swiftly sent a kick towards Night Sorrow's head. In his opinion, there was no need to use any technique to deal with an intermediate feather god trash. He could just crush his head with a kick. "No wonder you lost to Feng Ling. So your brain isn't working well. I'll use you to test my strength." Night Sorrow had consecutively killed an upper feather god, but Li Yuan still treated him like an ant. He was too arrogant. Night Sorrow didn't use the evolved 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear to deal with him. In order to test his strength, he directly threw a punch. He wanted to see the strength of an expert who was infinitely close to becoming a high god. Boom! The two collided, and the surrounding ground immediately collapsed. The ripples of energy spread all the way to the valley. The entire area seemed to have experienced a natural disaster. More than half of the cultivators in East Valley City had been drawn out. Look, it's Lord Li Yuan fighting someone. Who is this person? A pale-faced cultivator watching the battle asked in confusion. The four great experts of the Endless Bone region had always been mythical existences. They had won and lost against each other, and some had even been killed. However, they had never been challenged by other cultivators. They were like mountains that stood in the hearts of many cultivators. The 5 or 6 cultivators who rushed out behind Li Yuan were so shocked that they couldn't believe their eyes. This was because they saw with their own eyes that Li Yuan's attack was easily blocked by Night Sorrow. After the two exchanged blows, the result was that Li Yuan kept retreating. He was obviously suppressed. They felt that the Endless Bone region had completely changed this time. Not only was Feng Ling standing at the peak, but there was also a cultivator who could challenge the 4 great experts. The era had completely changed. They couldn't look back at 3,000 years ago. How is this possible? I actually suffered a loss at the hands of a mid-level feather god. Li Yuan was stunned that he had suffered a loss at the hands of Yishang. In his opinion, only Feng Ling could suppress him in the Endless Bone territory. Who are you? Are you the Southern Wasteland King? Ao Qingwu? Li Yuan asked in shock. In fact, although the Endless Bone region had always been known to have 4 great experts, everyone had only seen Feng Ling, Jing Hong, and Li Yuan. The Southern Wasteland King, Ao Qingwu, had never appeared in her true appearance. No one even knew whether Ao Qingwu was a man or a woman. Ao Qingwu didn't appear in the battle for the body-tempering treasured book 3,000 years ago. In the Great Battle 2,000 years ago, Feng Ling massacred the Southern Wasteland City, but Ao Qingwu didn't appear either. Feng Ling once said that he had scared her out of the Endless Bone region. Ao Qingwu, you think only the other 3 can challenge you? Hearing Li Yuan's words, Night Sorrow sneered. Times change. Those who can't keep up will definitely be eliminated. Remember, my name is Night Sorrow. As he spoke, Night Sorrow and Li Yuan fought again. He wanted to test the strength of his body, so he kept clashing with his opponent. After clashing for thousands of times, Night Sorrow confirmed that his body was as strong as Li Yuan's without using the power of merit to protect his body. Although his body-tempering level was only at mid-level feather god, his body was infinitely close to that of a great god. Someone like you can even give away your wife and daughter. There's no value in your existence. After confirming the strength of his body, Night Sorrow didn't want to waste any more time with Li Yuan. He wanted to kill him quickly and find out where Jing Yun and the others were. At the very least, he wanted to find out if they were still alive. After all, they were teammates, but he had disappeared for 3,000 years. This wasn't good. Shameless boasting. Do you think that's all I, Li Yuan, can do after dominating the Endless Bone region for a few reincarnations? Night Sorrow didn't take Li Yuan seriously at all. This made Li Yuan very angry. He used to be a king, but now he was being looked down on. He couldn't accept it all. If you have any powerful moves, you'd better use them immediately. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to use them again. At this moment, Night Sorrow felt confident that he could defeat Li Yuan, but he wasn't complacent. He knew that his opponents weren't just Li Yuan and Feng Ling. There was Ling Yun and the Purple Mansion Divine Lord behind him, and even the Divine King and the Creator behind them. This was only the first step to becoming stronger in the divine world. Chapter 24-21. You'll pay for your arrogance with your life. You'll fall into oblivion forever. Seeing Night Sorrow lose focus in the battle, Li Yuan was so angry that he almost exploded. He roared and used the mystic Thunder Tyrant body that he had exchanged for 50 million crystal cores from the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. The mystic Thunder Tyrant body was 10 times more expensive than the Berserk secret technique, so its effects were naturally extraordinary. After using it, Li Yuan's body was immediately enveloped by a layer of mystic thunder energy. Violent lightning arcs bloomed around him with a destructive aura. When he attacked Yi Shan again, every time he threw a punch, it would be filled with the violent power of thunder and lightning. It was much stronger than before. If that's all you know, I'm afraid you're going to die soon. Night Sorrow was indeed a little afraid of this, but he could easily resolve it with a little bit of the power of merit. At the same time, Night Sorrow, who didn't want to be entangled, used the 1,000 Catty Demon Subduing Spear. Under the powerful attacks of the 1,000 Catty Demon Subduing Spear, Li Yuan quickly fell into an absolute passive state. He didn't have any time to breathe and could only barely resist. How is this possible? Lord Li Yuan has already used a secret technique, but he's still being suppressed. Who is this mid-level feather god? A black-robed male cultivator watching the battle asked in surprise. A female cultivator who had seen Night Sorrow before said, "He seems to be the Night Sorrow that Lord Feng Ling ordered to be wanted. I've killed a protected enemy in Lord Feng Ling's jurisdiction." Although Night Sorrow didn't appear many times, some people remembered that he killed Lung Chinxiu. No wonder he dared to offend Feng Ling. He's indeed powerful. However, Feng Ling has already broken through to the superior god level. He's probably not our match. Otherwise, he might be able to save us. The superior god level feather god elder spoke of Feng Ling with hatred in his heart. Feng Ling's people had completely occupied the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda and didn't give anyone else any chance. They couldn't go to the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. The cultivators in East Valley City were just struggling at death's door. While they were discussing, Li Yuan gradually fell into a disadvantage under Night Sorrow's pressure. He was continuously stabbed by the 1,000 Catty Demon Subduing Spear, and his tough body was already bleeding. This was a feeling he hadn't experienced in many years. Secret technique, Heavenly Demon Transformation. Feeling stifled by the pressure, Li Yuan used another secret technique to transform his human form into a gigantic two-headed demon beast. This two-headed demonic beast had a huge wolf body and 2 huge heads. One was a snake head, and the other was an eagle head. The snake head spat out its scarlet tongue and looked very sinister. The eagle head was golden and gave people an extremely dangerous feeling. This is a secret technique that I comprehended after I lost to Feng Ling. You're dead for sure. After transforming into a two-headed beast, Li Yuan's body strength and speed had increased by 5 times. His strength had increased tremendously in an instant. Between the snake head and the eagle head, one was constantly spitting out green poisonous fog, while the other was continuously breathing out golden halos. As soon as the poisonous fog appeared, Night Sorrow felt as if he had sunk into a quagmire. His body suddenly became much heavier, and his speed became much slower. Li Yuan had gained the upper hand in terms of speed, and the golden halo he exhaled had the effect of disrupting souls. This was definitely an extremely special technique in the Endless Bone realm. Even with Night Sorrow's astonishing soul, he was still somewhat affected. The 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear's attacks were no longer as sharp as before. Good technique. Night Sorrow couldn't help but praise Li Yuan when he discovered that he was still slower than him, even after using the power of virtue to the fullest. However, Li Yuan wasn't in a good mood after being praised. He realized that although his techniques weren't bad and he had the upper hand, his attack power wasn't enough to break through Night Sorrow's defense and cause him no harm at all. After being strengthened by a large amount of Genesis essence, the strength of Night Sorrow's body had already surpassed the knowledge of many cultivators. Not good. If this continues, I'll definitely die at his hands when the secret technique's time is up. In order to survive, Li Yuan was even willing to give his wife and daughter to Feng Ling to play with. He naturally cherished his life. After a brief analysis, he decided to give up on the fight and flee. He wanted to use his speed advantage to shake off Night Sorrow and seek help from Fengling. He had heard the discussions of the other cultivators and knew that Night Sorrow and Fengling had a grudge against each other. The truth was just as Li Yuan had expected. After using the heavenly demon transformation and turning into a two-headed fae, his speed was indeed faster than Night Sorrow's, and he quickly fled over 10,000 miles away. However, he had underestimated the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear in Night Sorrow's hands. Seeing that Li Yuan had fled over 10,000 miles in the blink of an eye, Night Sorrow did not hesitate to use the forbidden spear art and send the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear flying. In the blink of an eye, the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear pierced through Li Yuan's body. You're very strong, but you don't have the heart of an expert. A true expert doesn't necessarily have to be stronger than anyone else, but their heart is stronger than anyone else's. Night Sorrow quickly ran to Li Yuan and pulled out the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear as he shook his head. He had seen many experts from various worlds and domains, but there weren't many who were as afraid of death as Li Yuan. Looks like the Endless Bone region's setup isn't enough. Night Sorrow was not too excited about using the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear to kill Li Yuan, but many of the spectating cultivators could not stand it. Li Yuan, who was once one of the 4 great experts and was unshakable in everyone's hearts, had been killed by a mid-level feather god. How could this not be shocking? Between Night Sorrow and Fengling, who will be the strongest expert in the Endless Bone region in the future? This was the question in many cultivators' hearts. Although Fengling had already cultivated to the body-tempering stage, Night Sorrow's potential was greater because he could kill Li Yuan as a mid-level feather god. Many of the cultivators who had originally thought that Fengling was invincible were gradually shaken. When they looked at Night Sorrow again, their eyes were filled with fear and reverence. Some people were tempted to follow Night Sorrow and fight against Fengling, but after thinking about it, they felt that it was safer to stay here. Although they could not go to the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda now, Fengling would have to leave one day. Perhaps when he left, their opportunity would come. Amidst their hesitation, the spectating cultivators gradually retreated to East Valley City, afraid that they would be tainted by karma. Python King, I remember that I left you in the Southern Wasteland. Why are you hanging in East Valley City? Night Sorrow did not take these people's reactions to heart. He walked to the Python King's side and asked after seeing that the latter had recovered well. Hey, don't mention it. When they heard that Naughty Fox died, they all came to the Bone region to find me. I was weak and could only hide in the Southern Wasteland City, but I was quickly found. The Python King was filled with bitterness when he heard Night Sorrow's words. He had been tortured miserably for the past 3,000 years. It's my fault, but you didn't lose out by obtaining the Genesis Essence, so don't mention it again. Tell me what you've heard in the past 3,000 years. Especially anything related to Jinghong. After saving the Python King, Night Sorrow shifted his attention to Jing Yun and the others and directly asked about Jinghong. He was very worried about the situation of his friends after West Abyss City was massacred. Chapter 24-22. My lord. Back then, Fengling's men were the first to find the body-tempering treasured tome, but they used a scheme to lure Jinghong and Li Yuan to the location of the tome. They instigated a war between the two sides, and in the end, reaped the benefits and obtained the body-tempering treasured tome. 1,000 years later, they reached the body-tempering supremacy state. The Xiaocotl king recounted everything he had heard. In the battle back then, the Southern Wasteland king, Ao Qingwu, did not appear. In the end, Fengling obtained the body-tempering treasure tome through some means. After he reached the supremacy state, he slaughtered all the cultivators in the other 3 major cities outside East Valley City. Only the cultivators who submitted to him managed to survive in East Valley City. Among the experts, Ao Qingwu did not appear from beginning to end. Many people suspected that this legendary expert had already left the Endless Bone region without making a sound. The defeated Li Yuan had shamelessly offered up his wife and daughter for Feng Ling to play with, thus saving his life. However, he hadn't expected to be killed by Yi Shang despite all his schemes. His end could be considered extremely tragic. Jing Hong fought to the death and sacrificed himself to send his sister, Jing Yun, into the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. In fact, Jing Hong, who had not broken through to the body-tempering supremacy state, was not at a disadvantage in the battle against Feng Ling. In the end, he was besieged by Feng Ling, Li Yuan, and Feng Ling's subordinates. It could be considered the final chapter of the battle, and his death was tragic. So this was the ending back then. Do you know what happened to Jingyan? Did she have a friend who escaped into the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda with her? When the Xiaocoatl king mentioned Jingyun, Knight's Sorrow asked anxiously. It seems that she succeeded in passing the Bone Pagoda and received some reward from the cultivation room. I don't know how many years it was. However, I don't think her situation is good. After all, the entire sky-reaching Bone Pagoda has fallen into Feng Ling's hands. She can't hide in the cultivation room forever, right? The Xiaocoatl king explained truthfully. After passing every level of the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda, one would be rewarded with cultivation time. However, it had been 2,000 years, and the Xiaocoatl king judged that things were not optimistic. There's no time to lose. I must go to the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. Xiaocoatl king's words. Knight's Sorrow immediately got up. Knight's Sorrow didn't want to miss the opportunity to make up for it, even if the chances were slim. My lord, that Feng Ling is overseeing the Bone Pagoda. Furthermore, his people have already monopolized the Bone Pagoda and are not allowing any cultivators to enter. The Xiaocoatl king hurriedly tried to dissuade him. Knight's Sorrow was about to do something that no one dared to imagine. How could he not be worried? After obtaining the Genesis essence of heaven and earth, the Python king had completely submitted to him and was very worried about Knight's Sorrow's safety. I don't care about that. The only one I'm worried about is you. This trip is very dangerous. Obviously, I can't bring you along. But if I leave you in East Valley City, you'll be easily targeted. The Xiaocoatl king had been living a miserable life all these years, and Knight's Sorrow was too kind to wipe out the entire East Valley City. Therefore, it was not safe to leave him here. Bringing him to the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda was even more impossible. It was just too dangerous. Why don't you give this little python to me? Just as Knight's Sorrow was feeling conflicted, an old man's voice suddenly rang out. Brother Mo Yuqian? Although he had not heard this voice for several thousand years, Knight's Sorrow clearly remembered that it was Mo Yuqian who had given him the Tao comprehending wine. Mo Yuqian's Tao comprehending wine played a huge role in obtaining the Genesis essence of heaven and earth. Knight's Sorrow was very happy to see that Mo Yuqian was safe and sound. Feng Ling's killing intent was too strong. It was not easy for him to survive for 3,000 years. As for how Mo Yuqian had managed to survive, Knight's Sorrow did not think too much about it. After all, everyone had their own ambitions. Sometimes, when forced to lower one's head, there was no other choice. It's me. I haven't seen you for several thousand years. Your strength has grown very quickly. Even Li Yuan, one of the 4 great experts, was killed by you. Mo Yuqian still had a wretched look on his face, no different from back then. I still have to thank brother for letting me drink the Tao comprehending wine and obtain the Genesis essence of heaven and earth. I still have 1 drop left. I'll give it to brother. Knight's Sorrow handed over the Genesis essence of heaven and earth. How can I accept this? Although Mo Yuqian's words were polite, he did not hesitate to receive the Genesis essence of heaven and earth, his appearance somewhat comical. After receiving the Genesis essence of heaven and earth, Mo Yuqian handed Knight's Sorrow a wine gourd and said seriously, Brother is about to do something big. Brother doesn't have anything to help you with, so I'll treat you to a drink. All right, then I'll thank brother for your kind intentions. Knight's Sorrow thanked Mo Yuqian as he received the wine gourd and lifted his head to drink without the slightest hesitation. The taste of the wine was somewhat different from the Tao comprehending wine. It was very strong and spicy, making it very suitable to drink in such an atmosphere. All right, straightforward. A smile appeared on Mo Yochin's face, but he did not say anything else. Mo Yuqian then pointed at the Python King and said to Night Sorrow, "Brother Night Sorrow, take care. I'll be taking him away." "All right. Then I'll have to trouble brother." Night Sorrow felt that the little old man Mo Yuqian was a little mysterious. However, he did not think too much about it and left East Valley City, heading straight for the sky-reaching bone tower. The evil spirit devouring winds in the Endless Bone region were no longer as fierce as 3,000 years ago, and were no longer a threat to Night Sorrow. The only things that could threaten him were the giant wind pillars. As long as he avoided them, there would be no danger on his way. However, as he watched Yishang's figure disappear into the horizon step by step, the Python King suddenly felt as if he was a hero who had left and would never return. After all, he did not only have to face Feng Ling alone, but also all of his subordinates. After Feng Ling and his subordinates gained power, they had used bloody methods to suppress the entire Endless Bone region and even took the sky-reaching bone tower for themselves, not allowing anyone to approach. The upcoming battle would be Night Sorrow, taking on Feng Ling and his several tens of thousands of elites by himself. "Didn't you guys forbid anyone from entering? Then I'll kill my way in. Don't you like to massacre cities? Today, I'll give you a taste of your own medicine." Night Sorrow exuded a monstrous killing intent. From East Valley City, he could reach the sky-reaching bone tower as long as he walked straight. Since he was familiar with the route, he quickly returned to the area where he had fought before. "Who are you? How dare you approach the sky-reaching bone tower? Do you have a death wish? Don't you know the rules set by Lord Feng Ling?" Night Sorrow was still thousands of miles away from the sky-reaching bone tower when one of Feng Ling's patrol teams discovered him. The leader of the team, the high-ranking feather god Zhurong, was a burly man. When he saw a cultivator approach, he immediately scolded him with an unruly expression. Other than Feng Ling's direct subordinates, no cultivator had dared to approach the sky-reaching bone tower for almost 2,000 years. The rules set by Feng Ling? The rules set by Feng Ling are nothing. Why should I follow them? Do you really think the Endless Bone Tower is his Dharma treasure? If you don't want to die, scram. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Night Sorrow, who was holding the 1,000-ton demon subduing spear, said with a gloomy expression. The battle intent around him had already begun to condense, and he was ready to start a massacre. No matter what, he was going to kill his way into the sky-reaching bone tower today. "Bastard, how dare you insult Lord Feng Ling? Brothers, charge! Tear this madman to shreds." Seeing that Night Sorrow's tempered body was only at the middle-rank feather god level, Zhurong did not do it himself. Instead, he let a few middle-rank and low-rank feather gods do it. "I've seen arrogant people, but I've never seen someone as tired of living as you. How dare you provoke Lord Feng Ling? You overestimate yourself. I've never seen someone as reckless as you. You're like a mayfly trying to shake a tree." At Zhurong's command, his subordinates immediately surrounded Night Sorrow. In their opinion, the Southern Wilderness King, Ao Qingwu, had gone missing, Jing Hong had died tragically in battle, and Li Yuan had surrendered. There was no one in the Endless Bone region who could threaten Feng Ling. Their forces were completely invincible. If anyone dared to provoke them, they would be courting death. You're the ones who are tired of living. Now, you'll understand what it means to overestimate yourself. Facing the siege of more than 10 cultivators, Night Sorrow let out a low growl. He directly used the 1,000-ton demon subduing spear to launch 10 simple strikes. After his strength had increased, Night Sorrow's 10 spears had become even more terrifying. It was not something the patrol team could withstand. In the first exchange, 10 cultivators had their bodies blown apart. "Oh no, this person is very strong. Captain, call for help." The other cultivators saw that something was wrong and immediately shouted for Zhurong to call for help. Chapter 24-23. A simple spear attack had the power to destroy heaven and earth. After killing 10 people in a row, the remaining cultivators were almost scared out of their wits. Someone is trying to break into the pagoda in the east. I need reinforcements. I need reinforcements. Seeing the situation in front of him, Zhu Rong immediately used a voice transmission Dharma treasure to call for help. There were nearly 100,000 people from Fengling near the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. Under Zhu Rong's call for help, hundreds of immortal body refinement cultivators rushed to the scene. Oh, there are really people who don't care about their lives. After some people arrived and saw that there were really people fighting, they immediately laughed. Fengling had been too invincible these years. Apart from hunting skeletons, they had not fought for many years. Many people were itching to participate in the battle. In the Endless Bone Realm, being surrounded by hundreds of immortal body refinement cultivators, if it were anyone else, they would have been scared out of their wits. However, Night Sorrow was not afraid because these people could not break through his defense at all. Soon, Night Sorrow killed hundreds of people in a row. At the same time, he advanced thousands of miles and was less than 10,000 miles away from the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. This person is a little too strong. I'm afraid this strength is not something we can deal with. Many cultivators who did not take Night Sorrow seriously had already put away their sense of superiority. They gradually understood that things were not that simple. However, this also completely alarmed Fengling's people. In the process of fighting, more experts rushed over to help. Not long after, Feng Jiu arrived with people. Behind him was the fire attribute bone dragon, the tiger-shaped demon beast that had been fierce in the formation, and 3 other demon beasts that were infinitely close to immortal body refinement. These 3 demon beasts were the 8-clawed fire centipede, the mammoth ant, and the Zhuyan. They all had monstrous auras, but their eyes were full of flames. Clearly, they did not have any intelligence. Fengling must have obtained an opportunity in the formation and found a way to control them. Night Sorrow, it's you. You're really courting death. I'll let you escape the first 2 times. This time, I'll kill you no matter what. Don't even think about escaping again. After observing Night Sorrow for a while, Feng Jiu raised his eyebrows and ordered, "You're no match for him. Hurry up and retreat." Escape? Why should I run? Forget about you. Even Fengling can't stop me from entering the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda today. Your ban is a joke. Night Sorrow, who had transformed into a god of death, continued to move forward. It was as if he was in a state where he could kill a person every 10 steps. Under Feng Jiu's command, many cultivators began to hide, but some along the way were continuously slaughtered by Night Sorrow. He was only a mid-level body-refining feather god, but he had killed an upper-level body-refining feather god as easily as killing a chicken. This made many of Fengling's subordinates shudder. Many people felt that even Fengling did not have such a terrifying killing intent that pressed forward courageously. How did his strength increase so quickly? Could it be that he obtained some kind of opportunity? Seeing Night Sorrow's state, Feng Jiu knew that she couldn't let her guard down. She continued to order, "You 5 bastards, tear him apart. Roar. Awoo." After Feng Jiu gave the order, the fire tribute bone dragons, tiger-like fierce beasts, 8-clawed fire centipedes, mammoth ants, and Zhuyan all roared. The fire tribute bone dragon in the air suddenly spat out a mouthful of red flames. This flame covered the sky and covered the earth as it attacked Night Sorrow. It was the dragon breath that had burned his robe and the robe of nothingness back then. Good timing. Let's settle the matter of the past together. After Night Sorrow left the array, he found an ordinary green robe and changed into it. Now the green robe had been stained red with blood, and the smell of blood was very strong. But no matter what, Night Sorrow did not want it to be burned. Naked again, he relied on a strong body to avoid the burning range of the flames. He rose into the air and went straight for the bone dragon's huge head. The current Night Sorrow's strength was far from what it was 3,000 years ago. He directly jumped on the bone dragon's head and broke both of its horns. Oh, The bone dragon immediately let out a roar when both of its horns were broken. At the same time, the tiger-shaped beast, the 8-clawed fire centipede, the mammoth ant, and the Zhuyan all moved. The Zhuyan was not big. It was about the same size as Night Sorrow. It looked like an ape, but it had a white head and red feet. Its fangs looked very ferocious, giving people an extremely fierce feeling. It jumped up fiercely and went straight for Night Sorrow. Its momentum was very shocking. Good timing. Night Sorrow, who had just broken both of the bone dragon's horns, threw out a punch and met the Zhuyan head-on. After the collision, the Zhuyan's body was directly sent flying. The huge aftershock shook the bone dragon to the point that it almost fell apart and fell down. With a loud bang, it smashed into the ground. The bone dragon had just landed, and before it could even catch its breath, Night Sorrow's 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear directly pierced a hole in its head. What a big crystal core. This should be comparable to countless crystal cores the size of a fingernail. With a big hole in the bone dragon's head, the flame surrounding its body immediately weakened a lot. The crystal core in its head was also exposed. It was actually the size of a human head. This crystal core was obviously thousands of times more valuable than the fingernail-sized crystal core. Night Sorrow did not hesitate and directly took it out with his spear. Without the support of the crystal core, the fire attribute bone dragon's flames all disappeared, and it turned into a pile of immobile bones. He actually became so strong. Feng Jiu was dumbfounded when she saw Night Sorrow easily defeat the Scarlet Ape and kill the fire tribute bone dragon. He immediately took out the twin shells and transmitted his voice to Feng. Big brother, help! Hurry up and get Sir to come out of seclusion. Someone is forcing his way into the sky-reaching bone tower. I can't stop him at all. You can't stop him, but there are still the 5 great monsters left behind by Sir. What are you panicking for? Feng Yi quickly responded impatiently. Cough. If the 5 great monsters could stop him, why would I be in such a hurry to transmit my voice to you? Feng Jiu's expression changed greatly. He said anxiously, I'm afraid that it won't be long before everyone, including me, is killed by him. This person is too ferocious. Night Sorrow's combat power had completely scared Feng Jiu out of his wits. What? Who has such combat power? Could it be the Southern Wasteland King? Ao Qingwu? Don't panic. Quickly hide in the bone pagoda in exchange for some time to cultivate. Hide for a while first. Feng Yi said and explained, Sir and I have important things to do here, so we can't go back for now. What's so important that our nest is going to be destroyed by someone? Feng Jiu, who was hurriedly fleeing toward the sky-reaching bone pagoda, asked with some displeasure. The pressure from Night Sorrow was too great, and he could not calm down at all. Why are you panicking? If those trash die, then so be it. Sir is planning to seize Jing Yun's bloodline. If he can successfully merge with it, he will have a chance to make the sky-reaching bone pagoda recognize him as its master. At that time, not to mention the endless bone region, even High Bay City will be in our pocket. Feng Yi said solemnly. How long will it take for Sir to complete the merging? At this time, I don't have many crystal cores in my hands, and I don't have time to go to Sir's treasury to get them, so I shouldn't be able to exchange for too long of a time to cultivate. Feng Jiu asked in a panic as he fled. Chapter 24:24. It won't take long. Master is now in the cultivation room, helping Jing Yun improve her body strength. As long as her body refinement reaches the level of an upper-level feather god, the bloodline will be transferred smoothly. Then the bloodline transfer can proceed smoothly. Feng Yi's tone was filled with worship and madness, as well as some demonic nature. How long will that take? How many years? Feng Jiu, who was running away frantically, was about to explode. He wondered what was wrong with Feng Yi. Why didn't he get to the point? Was he trying to kill him? She should succeed in about 1,000 years. Master is now consuming a lot of resources to improve her body strength. 1,000 years later, not only will the sky-reaching bone pagoda be subdued by us. High Bay City will also be slaughtered by us. We will soon take revenge for being exiled. Feng, Yi said coldly. What? 1,000 years? Hearing this, Feng Jiu immediately lost his composure. At this moment, he could escape into the sky-reaching bone pagoda in exchange for some time to cultivate. But with his financial resources, it was impossible to exchange for 1,000 years. At most, it would be about 100 years. For a moment, Feng Jiu was in a mess. He knew Feng Ling's character. It was impossible for him to give up on becoming stronger and come out of seclusion just because of Night Sorrow's massacre. At the same time, Night Sorrow, who had just killed the fire tribute bone dragon, blew up the 8-clawed fire centipede's body with his spear. Only the tiger-shaped beast, the mammoth ant, and Zhu Yan were left fighting with him. These three beasts did not have much spiritual intelligence, but they were ferocious and fearless. They kept charging at Night Sorrow. Although the tiger-shaped beast was fast and the Zhu Yan was brave, it was not difficult to deal with them. However, the mammoth ant was extremely difficult to deal with. It was not big, even smaller than Night Sorrow, but after using a secret technique, its strength was too great. Its body was very tough, and even a 1,000-kilogram demon's subduing spear could not break its defense. Night Sorrow, who intended to use them to practice his spear skills, did not use his forbidden spear skills. For a time, they fought back and forth. Some of the cultivators who had fled far away saw that the situation was stable. They thought that Night Sorrow had been pinned down by the three beasts and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. This included Feng Jiu, who had returned. Knowing that it was useless to run away for the time being, he braced himself and turned back. He immediately ordered his men to cooperate with the three great beasts to attack Night Sorrow again. In fact, Feng Ling was the young master of a large family outside. Feng Yi and Feng Jiu were his servants. In the Endless Bone domain, these two people were equivalent to his left and right arms. They had a lot of authority. However, Feng Jiu's cultivation talent was average, so she had never been able to reach the half-step upper god realm. Kill. He's already at the end of his rope. Feng Jiu commanded the cultivators to rush forward. With tens of thousands of cultivators attacking together, even Night Sorrow felt a bit of pressure. Without any hesitation, he directly shot out his forbidden spear technique towards the direction of the crowd. Boom! The dark green light streaked across, and instantly, dozens of cultivators were blasted into smithereens. The ground also collapsed from the impact. It was a majestic and thunderous attack. So strong. What kind of technique is this? It's too strong. Many cultivators were stunned by this spear and were momentarily stunned. Oh, whoa! The tiger-shaped beast was not convinced. It used its two wings to fly up and swoop down from the sky behind Night Sorrow. Sensing the danger, Night Sorrow did not turn back. He used his 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear again and directly blasted the tiger-shaped beast's body into pieces. He jumped onto its head and took out a huge crystal core. Night Sorrow, who had destroyed the tiger-shaped beast, consumed a lot of energy and gradually felt a trace of exhaustion. Because of this, his killing intent grew stronger and he began to kill crazily. After all, ants could bite a person to death. No matter how strong a person was, he would only be exhausted at the end of the day. Night Sorrow did not want to be beaten up by Feng Ling's group after he exhausted his energy. How can we fight? Feng Jiu was completely dumbfounded when she saw Night Sorrow shuttling through the crowd of cultivators as if there was no one around. Helpless, she ordered loudly, "No one is allowed to take a step back. Go, all you go. Exhaust him to death, even if you have to." I don't believe he's not exhausted at all. You're very jumpy, aren't you? You're jumping around. The other cultivators were all fighting, and Feng Jiu was the only one commanding outside the crowd. Naturally, he was noticed. Night Sorrow looked up and muttered coldly. They were a little far away, and Feng Jiu could not hear Night Sorrow's words clearly. However, she was so frightened by Night Sorrow's cold gaze that her body trembled. She immediately roared, "Stop him! Stop him! Don't let him get close to me!" "You want to stop me? Do you think that's possible?" Night Sorrow, who heard Feng Jiu's roar, sneered and charged in her direction. Like a tiger entering a flock of sheep, she closed in rapidly. Go on, all of you. Otherwise, all of you will die when a master comes out of seclusion. I'm from the same family as the master. Night Sorrow was truly way too ferocious. Apart from the mammoth ant and Zhu Yan that were pestering him, the others seemed to be charging forward but maintained a certain distance from him. There were cultivators who were fearless of death, but they were in the minority after all. These people were not as united as a single piece of metal. Is Feng Ling in seclusion? No wonder she's so obedient. She didn't appear even after I killed her to this extent. Upon hearing Feng Jiu's words, Night Sorrow, who initially wanted to kill her directly, decided to capture her first and see if he could get some useful information out of her. After all, the main purpose of his trip was to find out the whereabouts of Jingyun and the others, not to kill blindly. How dare you stop me? Although the mammoth ant and Zhu Yan were severely injured, they were still attacking relentlessly. Night Sorrow was completely enraged and stopped in his tracks, preparing to deal with the two of them first. He swept his spear horizontally. Night Sorrow took the lead and stabbed the Zhu Yan that had leaped into the air once more. This time round, Night Sorrow used the power of merit, and the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear became even more terrifying. When the spear struck the Zhu Yan's head, not only did it shatter its head, even its crystal core was shattered into dust. Night Sorrow did not feel the pinch and turned to deal with the most troublesome mammoth ant. This giant ant had caused him a lot of trouble, and Night Sorrow did not want to give it another chance to jump. Not only did he use the power of merit, but he also used the Forbidden Spear technique again to shatter it directly. After using the Forbidden Spear technique 3 times in a row, Night Sorrow had consumed a lot of energy. However, seeing how fierce he was, the cultivators who originally wanted to resist lost their courage to fight back. After the female cultivator escaped, the others gradually gave up resisting and fled to the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda not far away. As for Feng Jiu, she was targeted by Night Sorrow. Before she could escape into the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda, her lower body was shattered by the spear. Sir, please spare my life. Please spare my life. Although her lower body was shattered, immortal state cultivators could recover quickly. Feng Jiu, who had fallen to the ground, immediately begged for mercy. She was originally Feng Ling's servant and did not have the integrity of an expert. What do you have to be forgiven for? Night Sorrow asked with a gloomy expression. He only controlled Feng Jiu and did not care about the others. Because he could already tell that Feng Jiu had the highest status among the cultivators present, he had to capture the ringleader first. Sir, I know a lot about Feng Ling. I can tell you everything. Also, I have a way to help you exchange for at least a secret technique. The vitality of the immortal state cultivator was extremely strong. Feng Jiu, whose lower body was completely shattered, was not affected much when she spoke. You can help me exchange for a secret technique? Hearing this, Night Sorrow's heart skipped a beat. However, he continued to say calmly, Tell me everything you know. If you can get information that is useful to me, perhaps I will spare your dog life. I'll talk. Sir, listen to me slowly. Chapter 24-25. Oh, you have news of Jingyan? Upon hearing this, Night Sorrow's eyes lit up. If Feng Jiu didn't know about Jingyan, why would she bring this up? She obviously knew some inside information. My lord, I know some things about Jingyan and some news about her friends. If I tell you everything, can you spare my lowly life? After confirming that Night Sorrow was really related to Jingyan, Feng Jiu immediately bargained. However, this obviously angered Night Sorrow. He said coldly, Do you think you have a right to negotiate with me? If you have time to talk nonsense, why don't you tell me more? Yes, my lord. Please don't be angry. Please don't be angry. Feng Jiu was a servant and was very servile. After begging for mercy, she continued, To be honest, Feng Ling has already controlled Jingyan. He is also helping her improve her physical strength in the cultivation room. In less than 1,000 years, he will definitely improve Jing Yun's physical strength to that of an upper-level feather god. Feng Ling is so kind. Could it be that he likes Jing Yun and wants to marry her? Night Sorrow asked with a frown. Feng Jiu shook her head and said, "That's not the case. Feng Ling has the heavenly phoenix bloodline, but it's not pure. Jing Yun has the pure, true phoenix bloodline. He wants to improve Jing Yun's physical strength to a certain level and then use a secret technique to steal her bloodline. If he succeeds, he will become the #1 expert in both the Endless Bone region and High Bay City." What? He's actually so vicious. Hearing Feng Jiu's words, Night Sorrow asked angrily, "Where is Feng Ling now?" "My lord, I don't know which cultivation room he is in. Even if I knew, it would be useless because the cultivation room in the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda is impossible to break into. If you do, you will be attacked by a high god. However, I do know where Jing Yun's 3 friends are." Feng Jiu replied and continued, "They seem to be called Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, and Geng Chun. The one called Zhu Yunxia is quite pretty." Feng Jiu then explained that Jing Yun, Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, and Geng Chun were sent into the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda by Jing Hong. Back then, Jing Yun had witnessed her brother's tragic death. She had been filled with pain and indignation. She had directly exchanged for a high-tier feather god's lightning cultivation room in the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda. She had wanted to quickly increase her strength and avenge her brother. It was also because of this that although Jing Hong had left her a large number of crystal cores, she had only exchanged them for 2,000 years of cultivation time. A few days ago, she had been kicked out of the cultivation room. In the past 2,000 years, she had advanced to the level of a mid-level feather god, but she was no match for Feng Ling. She was caught on the spot. As for Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, and Geng Chun, they had exchanged for low-level feather god lightning cultivation rooms. Although they didn't have many resources, they had spent a lot of time exchanging. They still hadn't come out. They were all upper-rank feather gods. Hiding in a lower-rank feather god's thunder cultivation room was just to buy time. In fact, they were quite desperate. They only hoped that Jing Yun could create a miracle. After all, she had successfully evolved the bloodline of the true phoenix. Her talent in cultivation had even surpassed her brother, Jing Hong. Originally, Jing Yun's cultivation talent was much stronger than her brother's. Now, her talent in cultivation had also become outstanding. Therefore, Jing Hong had sacrificed himself to protect his sister. He hoped that his sister could leave the Endless Bone region and avenge the destruction of her family. Otherwise, with Jing Hong's strength, he could even fight Feng Ling, who had advanced to the level of a great god. Although he might not be able to defeat Feng Ling, he should be able to escape into the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda and leave through it. It seems that even if I was there back then, I wouldn't have been able to change anything. After hearing Feng Jiu's statement, Night Sorrow sighed and said, "Take me to see Zhu Yunxia and the others. They don't come out of the cultivation room. We can't see them at all." Feng Jiu immediately felt a headache coming on. "It's okay. Just take me to the door of the cultivation room where they are." After saying that, Night Sorrow grabbed Feng Jiu's hair and lifted her half-broken body. Under his guidance, they found the cultivation room where the 3 of them were. 2 of the 3 cultivation rooms were where Night Sorrow and Jing Yun had met. Seeing the 2 familiar cultivation rooms, Night Sorrow sighed slightly and thought to himself, "Jing Yun, don't worry. I will not let him succeed. No matter how difficult it is, I will solve it." Then, Night Sorrow knocked on the doors of the 3 cultivation rooms. He shouted, "Yunxia, Ho Lai, Geng Chun, are you in there?" "I am Night Sorrow." Night Sorrow? Hearing the familiar voice, the 3 of them who were huddled in the cultivation room and waiting for death suddenly became alert. Although they had not interacted much with Night Sorrow, they were friends who had gone through life and death. Naturally, they trusted him very much. After asking a few questions to confirm that Night Sorrow was not Feng Ling's people in disguise, Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, and Geng Chun rushed out of the cultivation room. Seeing Night Sorrow covered in blood, Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, and Geng Chun's eyes turned red. They could already guess what kind of battle Night Sorrow had gone through. Night Sorrow, why are you here? Is Feng Ling not here? Zhu Yunxiao immediately asked worriedly. In everyone's hearts, Feng Ling was already an undefeatable existence. I wish he was here. Unfortunately, he is after Jing Yun's bloodline. I don't know which cultivation room he is hiding in. Night Sorrow sighed. He was very worried about Jing Yun's encounter. What? Miss Jing Yun was captured by Feng Ling? The three of them who were originally happy because of Night Sorrow's appearance were immediately filled with worry. They knew about Jing Yun's true Phoenix bloodline. She was indeed captured. However, there shouldn't be any danger within 1,000 years. Furthermore, she can obtain some benefits. Jing Yun's body isn't strong enough. If she wants to perfectly seize her bloodline, she must first advance to the level of an upper-level feather god. Feng Jiu, who had been ignored, quickly said a few words. She was afraid that the three people who had just appeared would vent their anger on her and kill her in a fit of anger. Within 1,000 years? What should we do in such a short time? Hearing Feng Jiu's words, Zhu Yunxia, Holai, and Geng Chen's hearts tightened. Within 1,000 years, there was less than 1,000 years. How could they rescue Jing Yun from Feng Ling? Ignoring the fact that they could not force their way into the cultivation room, even with Feng Ling's strength, they could not catch up to him. We must increase our strength within 1,000 years. We must be strong enough to force our way into the cultivation room and defeat Feng Ling. Or we can directly make the sky-piercing bone pagoda recognize us as its master. These are the only two ways to save her. But what can we do about it? Holai had a forthright personality, but now he could not help but worry. He angrily kicked the wall of the cultivation room. Whether it was forcing their way into the cultivation room or making the sky-piercing bone pagoda recognize them as its master, it was almost impossible because they had less than 1,000 years. Gengchen also frowned and nodded. That's right. This is simply an impossible task. 1,000 years was simply too short for this matter. Zhu Yunxia, who had an equally ugly expression, looked at Night Sorrow and said, Is there any hope for this matter? Since you were able to kill your way here alone, your strength should have increased a lot, right? Back then, I obtained an opportunity in the Great Array and then slept for 3,000 years. Now, my strength has indeed increased a lot. However, the difficulty of rescuing Jing Yun is indeed very high. I'm not confident, Night Sorrow explained. Then, he said firmly, However, no matter how difficult it is, I will not give up on my friends. If they wanted to rescue Jing Yun, they had to quickly increase their strength. Even though Night Sorrow's cultivation speed was almost unparalleled, he could not help but feel an extremely heavy pressure. Chapter 24-26. Speaking of improving his strength, Night Sorrow immediately looked at Feng Jiu and asked, Before coming here, you said you could let me get a secret technique. Now tell me what's going on. If he could exchange for a suitable secret technique in the sky-reaching bone pagoda, Night Sorrow could definitely improve his strength by a level. Of course, he was more concerned about this. I can get it. I can definitely get it. Hearing this, Feng Jiu said with a smile, Sir, spatial artifacts can't be used in the endless bone realm, so most big shots have their own treasure vaults. I know where Feng Ling's treasure vaults are. I think with his accumulation, it's definitely enough to exchange for a secret technique. Feng Jiu was a real villain. In order to survive, she even revealed Feng Ling's treasure vaults. Feng Ling exchanged for at least 1,000 years of cultivation time. How can there be any left in the treasure vault? As far as I know, the cost of exchanging for an upper-level feather god cultivation room is huge. Hearing Feng Jiu's words, Night Sorrow immediately questioned. It was relatively cheap to exchange for a lower-level feather god cultivation room, but the upper-level feather god cultivation room's cost was terrifying. Otherwise, the cultivators in the endless bone realm would have expanded their strength to a certain extent. There must be some left. Feng Ling collected many female cultivators in the endless bone realm and raised them in a special area. He usually doesn't use the treasure vault there. Only I know these things. Feng Jiu immediately explained. Okay, I'll believe you this time. If you're up to any tricks, I'll kill you immediately. If he wanted to improve his strength quickly, a large amount of resources was necessary. Night Sorrow warned Feng Jiao. Under her lead, they left the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda area and rushed to Feng Ling's hiding place. Feng Ling's hiding place was near the Black Wind Pillar area. It was a very hidden valley. The entrance of the valley was only a few dozen meters wide, but the inside was a different world. It was about 100 miles in radius. Outside the valley, there were many skeleton creatures. These skeletons walked aimlessly in a specific area. They didn't enter the valley, but blocked the path to the mountain. Night Sorrow and the others killed over 1,000 skeletons before entering the valley. By killing the skeletons here, Night Sorrow could obtain the golden power of virtue. However, by killing the ferocious beasts and bone dragons in the array, he could not obtain the golden power of virtue. He felt that it might be because the 5 ferocious beasts were created by cultivators, while these skeletons should be born naturally. It seems like killing skeletons to increase my power of virtue is also a way to quickly become stronger. Once I'm done with my other matters, I'll go around hunting skeletons. I wonder if there are any skeletons in the Endless Bone realm that are stronger than a high-class feather god. If there are, I should be able to quickly increase my strength. Night Sorrow pondered as he made his way into the valley. The Endless Bone realm was huge, and there were many regions that the cultivators had yet to explore. Damn it, Feng Ling is simply a beast. He really deserves to die. As soon as the group entered the valley, Zhu Yunxia cursed angrily. In this valley with a radius of 50 kilometers, there were hundreds of naked women. Their ankles were heavily shackled, and each of them had obvious whip marks on their bodies. They all looked pitiful. As cultivators, it was too tragic for them to end up like this. It was no wonder that it was rare to see beautiful female cultivators in the Endless Bone realm. It seemed that most of them had been collected by Feng Ling and brought to this valley. I wonder how Jingyun is. After seeing what these female cultivators had encountered, Night Sorrow naturally became worried about Jingyun. In fact, Jingyun was beautiful and had the bloodline of the true phoenix. Her temperament was extremely outstanding, so Feng Ling naturally missed her. However, Jingyun was soft on the outside but tough on the inside. If he used force, it was very likely that she would self-destruct. Feng Ling was afraid that it would ruin his plans, so he did not do anything in this aspect. Jingyun knew that Feng Ling did not have good intentions in helping her improve her body-tempering strength. However, in order to take revenge, she still cooperated with him to cultivate. This is really a beast. Zhu Yunxiao walked to the side of a young girl with a face full of sympathy. She wanted to help her cut off the shackles on her feet. The girl had countless whip marks on her body and had not recovered yet. She had obviously been abused by Feng Ling. However, Zhu Yunxiao's attack did not cut off the shackles. Holai and Gung Chun could not do it either. In the end, it was Night Sorrow who took action and removed all the shackles on these women. However, after these women were freed from the shackles, none of them left the valley. They were very confused and did not know where to go. Night Sorrow did not care about this. He let Zhu Yunxia handle it while he led Ho Lai and Gung Chun to find Feng Ling's treasury. As the saying went, it was hard to guard against thieves day and night. With Feng Jiu leading the way, they quickly found the treasury. This treasury was in a deep and serene cave. The cave, which was supposed to be pitch black, was even somewhat blinded by the shining crystal cores. There were at least hundreds of millions of crystal cores in the dazzling array. Moreover, there were many defensive and offensive divine weapons in the treasury. There was even a defensive robe that was at the high god level. A high god level defensive robe might not be worth much in the Endless Bone region, but could definitely be sold for a high price in High Bay City. If these things are brought to the heavenly realm, they should be able to be exchanged for many cultivation resources. These should be resources that Feng Ling prepared for himself. After all, he has the ability to leave the Endless Bone region. The resources in front of them made Night Sorrow and the others very envious. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow said, Holai, go and call Yunxia over. We will each choose some divine weapons that are suitable for us. Then move all these things away and hide them somewhere else. Don't leave a single one for Fengling. Divine weapons and the like were not very useful in the Endless Bone region. However, for a cultivator with excellent spear skills like Night Sorrow, using them would greatly increase his strength. When Zhu Yunxia and the others arrived, the few of them chose the divine weapons that were suitable for them. Zhu Yunxia's 1,000 Catty Demon subduing spear had been upgraded to a certain level. It was probably not inferior to a high god-level divine weapon. Therefore, Night Sorrow did not choose it. As for Zhu Yunxia, after receiving a divine artifact, longsword with 9 lightning tribulation feathers, she generously expressed that she would give the 1,000-kilogram devil-subduing spear to Yichang. She said that she had given away a divine artifact with 7 lightning tribulation feathers for a divine artifact longsword with 9 lightning tribulation feathers. Yishang was very grateful for this and remembered the other party's generosity. After that, Ho Lai received a set of warhammers and Gung Chun received a trident. Both were divine weapons with 9 lightning feathers. As for the defensive robe, they did not choose it because they could not use divine Yuan Qi. They could not use it at all. After that, the few of them spent more than 3 years wiping out Fengling's nest and moving it to a more secluded valley. Then, they returned to the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda with a large number of crystal cores. At this time, the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda was extremely deserted. There were not many cultivators in sight. Fengling's subordinates were so frightened by Night Sorrow that they either hid in the cultivation room or fled to other places. They were very afraid that he would start a massacre again. After entering the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda, the group began to study the use of the large number of crystal cores. Because Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, and Gung Chun had pinned their hopes of rescuing Jing Yun on Night Sorrow, they only took a small portion of the crystal cores to exchange for cultivation time. They still exchanged for cultivation rooms at the lower feather god level, not to become stronger, but to live safely for 1,000 years. With a large number of crystal cores in hand, after careful consideration, Night Sorrow exchanged for 2 secret techniques that were worth 50 million crystal cores each. One of them was called the Star's Mighty Body. It was a secret technique that could increase a cultivator's defense. This secret technique was similar to the mysterious Thunder Mighty Body. It consumed a lot of energy, but the backlash was not terrible. The other one was called the 7 Stars Rage. It could increase a cultivator's body strength and speed by 7 times in a short period of time. The backlash was very terrible. After using the secret technique, the cultivator would be weak for a long time. It could only be used in a desperate situation. Then he exchanged for some basic divinity realm body refining experience. The price of his experience was not very high. It was much cheaper than some body refining treasures. Night Sorrow's idea was to leave a portion of the crystal cores to exchange for cultivation time at the upper feather god level. As for the body refining treasures, he was not very interested in them. He was going to use these divinity realm body refining experience to study the Myriad Tao treasure book, hoping to upgrade it. I'm going to learn these 2 secret techniques first. Then I'll go to the pagoda and see what kind of reward I can get. Take care, everyone. Time is tight, so I won't chat with you. After we rescue Jingyun, we'll have a long talk. After obtaining the 2 secret techniques, Night Sorrow told Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, and Gung Chun about his idea. If he wanted to increase his strength quickly, the best choice was to go to the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda and get some rewards. He could also learn some secrets of the Bone Pagoda. Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, and Gung Chun sent their blessings and rushed to the cultivation room. They were afraid of implicating Night Sorrow. Since they were not cultivating, they exchanged for a cultivation room. They also brought the severely injured Feng Jiao in. After watching them enter the cultivation room, Night Sorrow walked out of the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda and began to cultivate the 2 secret techniques. Night Sorrow's soul power was already high, and his comprehension was not low. Recently, he had been strengthened by the Genesis essence of heaven and earth. In less than 100 years, he had learned the two secret techniques. He went straight to the sky-reaching bone pagoda. Chapter 24-27. This black-robed female cultivator was tall and slender, and she had a heavenly beauty. However, her expression was cold, and she gave off a feeling of being 1,000 miles away from others. However, when Knight Sorrow walked closer, he saw tears rolling down her face. Body tempering level of a supreme deity. Knight Sorrow finally noticed that the female cultivator was a supreme deity. He didn't want to waste time, so he stopped and asked, "What's wrong?" Knight Sorrow suddenly felt that the female cultivator was familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen her before. Sigh. The female cultivator sighed and said, "I thought I could protect all my friends after I became a supreme deity. I didn't expect that after a few thousand years of cultivation, everything would change." "Are you the Southern Wasteland King, Ao Qingwu?" The female cultivator's words caused Knight Sorrow's heart to tremble. Her words immediately caused him to think of the legendary figure from the Endless Bone Realm. The Southern Wasteland has been massacred. There's no Southern Wasteland King. Ao Qingwu's words were full of sadness. She didn't get any body-tempering techniques, but she broke through to the supreme deity level with her own understanding. However, fate made fools of people. She only wanted to protect all her friends, but when she came out of seclusion, she found that all her friends were killed by Fengling. The entire Southern Wasteland city was massacred. Except for the traitors, no one survived. The dead are gone. My condolences. Knight Sorrow sighed and comforted her. The realm of the gods was too cruel. Sometimes, the lives of cultivators were worse than grass. "Is there anyone you want to protect?" Ao Qingwu murmured. She didn't look at Knight Sorrow. "I have family and friends to protect. This is also the biggest motivation for me to become strong." Yishan could feel the other's sadness, so he answered truthfully. "This is where I met my friends. At that time, I had just entered the Endless Bone region, and my body tempering level was not strong. I was not bullied by other cultivators because they took care of me. Otherwise, not only would I lose my virginity, but I would also lose my life." Ao Qingwu slowly told her story and said with hatred, "They were all killed by Fengling, but I can't find Fengling. I can't avenge them. I do know that Fengling is residing in the cultivation room, plotting to seize my friend's true Phoenix bloodline within 1,000 years. If he seizes the true Phoenix bloodline, I'm afraid that his strength will have a very terrifying increase." Since the other party had the same enemy as him, Knight Sorrow did not hide Fengling's matter. Knight Sorrow did not doubt Ao Qingwu's identity at all, because in the Endless Bone region, other than her, no one else could break through to the body-refining upper god stage. "Which cultivation room is he in? Take me there. I'm going to kill him and avenge all the dead." Ao Qingwu's gaze sharpened when she heard Knight Sorrow's words. Her aura was no longer as pitiful as before. "You might be a high god in body refinement, but I advise you not to be impulsive. If you go into the cultivation room now, you will be attacked by the Bone Pagoda. If you fight Fengling while enduring the Bone Pagoda's attack, you will definitely be killed." Seeing that Ao Qingwu was a little dizzy from hatred, Knight Sorrow hurriedly tried to persuade her. "Why don't you wait for me to increase my strength, and then we can go and kill Fengling together. You're just an intermediate god in body refinement. What can you do? Quickly tell me where Fengling is hiding." Ao Qingwu began to seriously size up Knight Sorrow. When she saw Knight Sorrow, she could not help but be taken aback. Then she raged, "Thief! So it's you. If you hadn't stolen 3 drops of Genesis essence from me back then, why would I have been delayed for 3,000 years before coming out of seclusion?" As she spoke, Ao Qingwu angrily struck out with her palm, aiming straight for Knight Sorrow's head. "What? You're that black dragon in the underground river. I remember that your aura was very powerful back then. You must have reached the body-refining upper god stage. How could I have delayed you time?" Hearing Ao Qingwu's words, Knight Sorrow suddenly remembered why she looked so familiar. Ao Qingwu was the black dragon who had attacked him in the underground river. Night Sorrow did not dare to be careless in the face of a high god's attack. He condensed his power of merit and used the star's hegemonic body and the forbidden spear to resist with all his might. The backlash from using the secret technique, 7 Stars Rage, was too great, so Night Sorrow did not use it. Boom! Although Ao Qingwu had only casually attacked, it was still an attack from a high god. Night Sorrow had to use many of his trump cards to be on par with his opponent. Ao Qingwu's attack did not cause any harm to Night Sorrow, but she did not suffer any backlash either. You're pretty strong, but quibbling won't let you live. I had reached the high god stage back then, but my body had some hidden injuries that required the Genesis essence of heaven and earth to heal. It's all your fault for stealing 3 drops, so I was delayed for 3,000 years. You're going to die today. Ao Qingwu was a little surprised that her attack did not succeed, but she did not hesitate to attack again. This time, she attacked with all her might, but she did not use her secret technique. Rare treasures of heaven and earth belong to the fated. If it belonged to you, why didn't you keep it back then? Your friends were killed, but you didn't think of a way to take revenge. Instead, you try to make your presence known to me. It's not that easy to kill me. Night Sorrow could not help but feel a little angry that Ao Qingwu had implicated him for no reason. I remember that you called me a worm and said you wanted to kill me. It's normal for me to kill you now. You have nothing to defend yourself. Die. Pay with your life for all my friends. Ao Qingwu's body was full of hostility. She used her palm as a knife and went straight for Night Sorrow's chest. If he was caught, his entire heart would be dug out. In that case, there's nothing to say. Night Sorrow did curse when he was attacked, but he did not want to defend himself. He thought to himself, since you're attacking, I'll take it. In an instant, the god-level essence smoke that he had comprehended 3,000 years ago appeared on Night Sorrow's body again. He used the power of merit and the forbidden spear again. With the god-level essence, smoke, and the astral body, the forbidden spear was many times more powerful than before. The golden fire of merit burned on the surface of the 1,000-ton demon spear, and it pierced toward Ao Qingwu's palm. Seeing Night Sorrow's spear, Ao Qingwu's palm turned into a dragon's claw. The two collided, and there was a loud rumble in the sky bone pagoda. The ground shook as if there was an earthquake. However, the sky bone pagoda was obviously made of high-quality materials. It did not have a single crack after such a huge impact. Just like the sky bone pagoda, Night Sorrow and Ao Qingwu were not injured. It was a tie again. What? You're just a mid-level feathered god-human cultivator, and you can block my attacks twice. Ao Qingwu was clearly stunned when she saw that Yi Shang was completely unharmed. The situation before her eyes had already exceeded her imagination. A few thousand years ago, she had not reached the body refinement realm, but she could easily kill a mid-level feather god in a second. Now, she had failed twice. It was unbelievable. There are many things you can't imagine. If your vision is forever stuck in the endless bone region, your achievements will probably be limited to this. Just as she was stunned, Night Sorrow took the opportunity to enter the sky bone pagoda. He knew that if the stalemate continued, Ao Qingwu might use a secret technique or transform into her original form to fight. If that happened, Night Sorrow would not be able to take it. Thief! You're lucky to have escaped. Ao Qingwu muttered unwillingly. She had let Night Sorrow escape into the sky bone pagoda. However, at the same time, she was also shocked by Night Sorrow's ability. As a mid-level feathered god-human cultivator, not only could he block her full-strength attack, but his speed was also close to that of a body refinement high god. This was simply shocking. After all, the difference in cultivation level between the two was huge. Could it be that he obtained a large amount of Genesis essence? Completely changed his body? That must be it. Otherwise, no matter how strong his body refinement talent is, he can't be so outstanding. Ao Qingwu thought to herself. Human cultivators had always been the weakest in terms of physical strength. Demon Beast had a unique advantage in terms of physical strength. As a dragon, her body was even more abnormally strong. In the Endless Bone region, she was almost invincible in the same cultivation level. A human cultivator with a terrifyingly strong body like Night Sorrow was simply an existence that defied common sense. No matter how talented you are, I'll kill you next time. It won't be so easy between us. Ao Qingwu thought for a while and muttered hatefully. At the same time, Night Sorrow officially entered the Sky Bone Pagoda Challenge Tower. Chapter 24-28. Ao Qingwu's two attacks had given Night Sorrow a lot of pressure, but at the same time, it had given him a lot of confidence. Night Sorrow judged that he should be invincible in the Divine Feather Realm in terms of body tempering. He could even last a few rounds against a lower High God body tempering expert, but in a long battle, he would definitely not be a match for a High God body tempering expert. This meant that he was not too far away from the High God body tempering stage. If he improved in other aspects, he might be able to challenge a High God body tempering expert. But the prerequisite was that the High God body tempering expert did not have many trump cards. In any case, the Genesis essence of heaven and earth had given him a huge boost. Tell me the rules of the Challenge Tower. The Challenge Tower of the Sky-Piercing Bone Tower was located in an independent space, and the receptionist was a humanoid puppet. The humanoid puppet moved very slowly and spoke very slowly. The rules are that each level has 10 gatekeepers of the corresponding cultivation level. Defeat them or find the exit of the next level. The faster you clear the level, the better the rewards. The rewards include cultivation time in the Sky-Piercing Bone Tower, cultivation manuals, secret techniques, body tempering experience, and some special rewards. In addition, after clearing the 4th level, you will be able to see the teleportation gate out of the Endless Bone region. What are the special rewards? Yishang asked curiously when he heard the puppet's words. He knew that these mysterious rewards were usually good stuff. Only by breaking the previous record will you be able to trigger the special rewards. As for what the special rewards are, I don't know, but it has something to do with the master. The puppet explained slowly. The master of the Sky-Piercing Bone Tower? Didn't they say that the Sky-Piercing Bone Tower has no master and that anyone can get it to recognize a master? Night Sorrow was a little puzzled. The puppet said, the old master was the creator of the Sky-Piercing Bone Tower. The current Sky-Piercing Bone Tower is indeed an ownerless treasure. I see, I understand. Night Sorrow replied, and found that there were 5 records at the entrance of the Challenge Tower. The record holder of the 1st level was Jing Hong, 3 breaths. The record holder of the 2nd level was Ao Qingwu, 17 breaths. The record holder of the 3rd level was Ao Qingwu, 39 breaths. The record holder of the 4th level was Feng Ling, 79 breaths. On the 5th level, the record holder was Feng Ling, using 217 breaths. No one passed the 6th level. No one passed the 7th level. These records are held by the 4 great powerhouses. He wondered how difficult it would be to break it. I need to return to my peak condition. The puppet had once said that there were benefits to breaking a record. There was a chance that he would be rewarded by the master of the Sky Split Bone Pagoda. Night Sorrow naturally didn't want to miss this opportunity. The challenge tower that everyone entered was an independent space. Night Sorrow, who had recovered, was not worried about Ao Qingwu appearing. He began to carefully study the challenge tower. There were 9 gatekeepers on each level. The 1st level had the strength of a lesser feather god. The 2nd level had the strength of an intermediate feather god. The 3rd level had the strength of an upper feather god. The 4th level had the strength of a half-step high god. The 5th level had the strength of a lesser high god. The 6th level had the strength of an intermediate high god. And the 7th level had the strength of an upper high god. If he wanted the Sky-Piercing Bone Pagoda to recognize him as its master, he would have to survive the attacks of 9 superior gods. Night Sorrow couldn't do that, so he didn't think too much about it. As for the 6th level, the chances were very low, so he didn't consider it. I wonder if I can pass the 5th level if I use all my trump cards. Night Sorrow was very confident about the first 4 levels. This meant that he already had the ability to leave the Endless Bone region. However, the laws of time here were very special. 10,000 years was only 1 year in the divine world. He wasn't in a hurry to leave. He wanted to save Jingyun, and he wanted to improve his strength as much as possible. Phew, I've finally recovered to my peak condition. I can challenge the challenge tower. After recovering for about a month, Night Sorrow felt that his body was at its peak condition. He entered the first level of the challenge tower and prepared to start the challenge. The record for the first level was only 3 breaths. Night Sorrow stood in the center of the arena with the 1,000-catty demon subduing spear in his hand. He was slightly nervous. Do you want to start the first level challenge? The puppet's slow voice sounded at this time. Start the first level challenge. Night Sorrow shouted in an imposing manner. He began to prepare the 1,000-catty demon, subduing spear's strongest move. Soon, a skeleton guardian of the lower divine feather realm appeared in each of the 9 positions within 100 meters of him. Without any hesitation, Night Sorrow used the forbidden spear to strike the ground of the challenge tower. Boom! With a loud bang, the ground of the challenge tower shook. The 10 skeleton guardians were instantly shattered. The first level of the challenge tower is a success. A new record is born. The record holder is Night Sorrow. Time taken, 1 breath. The puppet immediately announced the result. Hearing this result, Yishang smiled faintly. The reason he was able to deal with the skeleton guardian was because of his battle with Ao Qinwu. When the two of them exchanged blows, there was a huge aftershock. This gave him some inspiration, and he was able to think of a way to attack the ground. The challenge tower restricted the speed of the cultivators. If he were to deal with the skeletons one by one, it would be difficult to finish within 3 breaths. Using a group attack was the easiest way. The first level of the challenge tower is a success. A new record is born. The record holder is Night Sorrow. Time taken, 1 breath. Just as Night Sorrow was about to receive his reward with a smile, a loud announcement sounded in every corner of the Endless Bone region. What? How is this possible? Night Sorrow passed the first level of the challenge tower in 1 breath. Is he really that Night Sorrow? This name is not common. It should be him. In an inconspicuous stone house in East Valley City, a white-robed cultivator murmured with a complicated expression after hearing the announcement. He was Lu Jiangtian, the law enforcement captain of the Sea Sky Assembly. He had been in the Endless Bone region for more than 3,000 years and had yet to reach the body-tempering Feather God realm. When he heard that Night Sorrow had successfully passed the challenge tower and set a new record, he had mixed feelings. Firstly, he was happy that Night Sorrow had also been exiled to the Endless Bone region. Secondly, he was shocked by the speed of his growth. After all, anyone who could set a new record was a legendary figure. Brother Night Sorrow is indeed extraordinary. He broke Boss Jing Hong's record in 1 move. When he heard the news, Ho Lai, who was in the cultivation room, shouted happily. He had a good impression of Night Sorrow. Of course, back when he was a low-level body-tempering feather god, he was able to kill Ling Tian in 1 move. If he advances to the mid-level body-tempering feather god realm, his strength will increase by leaps and bounds. Zhu Yinxiao was also very happy and smiled. Geng Chun, who was sitting to the side, looked at the 2 excited people and smiled slightly without saying anything. Night Sorrow, you have appeared. Jing Yun, who was improving her strength in the high-level feather god cultivation room, was clearly shocked when she heard the news. Do you know him? Feng Ling, who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, asked coldly when he felt Jing Yun's body tremble in the lightning. He was dressed in white and had an extremely handsome face. His eyes were long and narrow. Even though they were not open, he gave off a very strong pressure. He is more outstanding than you and more open and above board, Jing Yun said bluntly. Haha, what's the use of being open and above board? In the realm of the gods, only the strong are respected. Feng Ling smiled non-committally at Jing Yun's answer. That's why you will never have the chance to become a master, but he will. This is the difference in your breadth of mind. It will decide your future path. As she spoke in a lightning, blood flowed from the corner of Jing Yun's mouth, but a smile appeared on her face. It's not too late for you to say this after he breaks my record on the 4th and 5th levels. The first 3 levels were just because I was too lazy to break them after I became a deity. Feng Ling did not care about Jing Yun's words at all. It was obvious that he did not take Night's Sorrow seriously. The challenge on the 4th level of the challenge tower is successful. A new record has been created. The record holder, Ao Qingwu, took 10 breaths. At this moment, a loud announcement sounded in the Endless Bone region again. Ao Qingwu had also made a move to break the record. Hearing this voice, Feng Ling, who was originally sitting cross-legged with her eyes closed, immediately opened her eyes and stood up. Chapter 24-29. Ao Qingwu appeared and broke the record of the 4th level. She must have become a body-tempering superior god. The record of the 4th level was set by Feng Ling before he became a superior god. He judged that it was definitely a superior god who broke the 4th level in 10 breaths. Feng Ling, who originally thought that he was invincible with only one body tempering superior god in the Endless Bone territory, had mixed feelings. Among the 4 masters, his bloodline talent was the worst. He had no advantage in a battle between masters of the same level. At the same time, hearing the news of Ao Qingwu breaking the record, the entire Endless Bone territory became lively. A legendary figure had appeared after a few thousand years of silence and directly broke the record of the challenge tower. It was the return of the king. That was not all. The key was that she and the new master, Night's Sorrow, appeared at the same time. Had the two of them joined forces? If they joined forces, even Feng Ling would not be a match for them. So soon, the Endless Bone territory had changed again. After all, the cultivators of East Valley City had seen Night's Sorrow kill Li Yuan, one of the 4 masters. Feng Ling's scattered subordinates had also seen Night's Sorrow's ferocity. They had seen him kill the 5 ferocious beasts with their own eyes. In their minds, there were no more 4 masters in the Endless Bone territory. There were only 3 masters: Feng Ling, Ao Qingwu, and the new master, Night's Sorrow. If Night's Sorrow heard others talking about him and Ao Qingwu, he would be speechless. The two of them were at daggers drawn. There was no such thing as cooperation. The next time they met, there would be a big battle. The current situation was that he, Feng Ling, and Ao Qingwu were in a triangular confrontation. It was a complete free-for-all. Ao Qingwu was the strongest at the moment. However, Feng Ling had Jing Yun's bloodline and might not be at a disadvantage. Night's Sorrow was the weakest at the moment, but his potential was the most amazing. It all depended on who could rule the Endless Bone territory in the end. Start the 2nd level challenge. After the 1st level challenge, the puppet informed Night's Sorrow that the reward would be given after the challenge was completed. He did not hesitate to start the challenge. The record holder of the 2nd level was Ao Qingwu, who took 17 breaths. This time, after the guarding skeletons were refreshed, Night's Sorrow changed his strategy and did not use the Forbidden Spear. Instead, he used the 1,000-kilogram demon spear and stabbed 9 times consecutively. He killed one of them in a breath's time. In the end, it took 11 breaths. The challenge tower greatly suppressed the speed of cultivators. If not for this, many experts would have been able to pass the trial in a single breath. Begin the 3rd floor challenge. The record holder of the 3rd level was Ao Qingwu, who used 39 breaths of time. This record should have been set by Ao Qingwu several years ago, and her results were not very outstanding. Now, Night's Sorrow could kill a skeleton at the Feather God Body Tempering Realm with a single spear strike. In the end, the time taken for the 3rd level was exactly the same as the 2nd level. It also took 11 breaths. The announcement of the record-breaking 2nd and 3rd levels rang out continuously in the Endless Bone realm. Many cultivators simply did not know what to say. He thought to himself that a person like Yishang could only be described as a monster. This was especially true for the cultivators who knew Night Sorrow. They knew exactly how long he had been in the Endless Bone Realm, and were even more shocked. Feng Ling, who was originally dismissive of Night Sorrow, could not help but worry. He judged that Night Sorrow's strength was at least on par with his before his breakthrough. If he and Ao Qingwu really join forces, I will definitely be no match for them. Feng Ling's expression was very dark, but after a moment, he was relieved and thought to himself, as long as I obtain the true Phoenix bloodline, everything will not be a problem. Moreover, I have Feng Yi to help me. Victory should be in my grasp. Obtaining the bloodline was a secret technique unique to the Feng Ling family. The stronger the person being robbed was, the greater the increase in his strength. This was also the reason why he had been helping Jing Yun to increase her strength. However, no one, including Feng Yi, knew about it. At this moment, Feng Yi had obtained the body tempering manual from Feng Ling and was trying to break through to the upper god body tempering realm in the cultivation room next door. If he succeeded, he would be a great help to Feng Ling. Even if I die, I won't let you succeed in obtaining the bloodline. Jing Yun, who was still strengthening herself in the lightning, was not clear about Feng Ling's specific plot, but she knew that he definitely did not have good intentions. As if knowing what Jing Yun was thinking, Feng Ling looked up at her and did not say anything. Just a glance from him made Jing Yun have an ominous premonition. She thought to herself, since Feng Ling is doing this, he must be prepared. In the end, will I not even have the chance to self-destruct? Forget it. I'll take it one step at a time. Anyway, I won't give up without a fight. Facing the desperate situation, the image of Night Sorrow, who could not even stand steadily, killing Ling Tian with one shot flashed across Jing Yun's mind. She felt that she should not give up hope. The challenge of the 5th level of the challenge tower is successful. A new record is born. The record holder, Ao Qingwu, used 162 breaths. At this moment, the announcement attracted everyone's attention once again. Ao Qingwu actually broke the record of the 5th level, overshadowing Night Sorrow's limelight. After all, she had succeeded in challenging the 5th level. This meant that she was now the strongest person in the Endless Bone region, the highest combat power. We are actually so far apart. Talent and bloodline are indeed important. The others did not know Ao Qingwu, but Feng Ling did. They had fought several times before, and he did not have the upper hand each time. In the previous body tempering manual battle, if Ao Qingwu had appeared, it was really hard to say who would have gotten the manual. Hearing this announcement, Feng Ling's heart trembled. The strength of the upper god is indeed amazing. If she did not appear, I could have easily broken the record of the first 4 levels. Hearing that Ao Qingwu had broken the record of the 5th level, Night Sorrow, who was preparing to challenge the 4th level, could not help but think of a way to break the record. The original record was 79 breaths, which he could break in a normal battle. Now, it had become a short 10 breaths. On average, it was a little difficult to kill a skeleton that was half a step to the upper god state in one breath. After all, the vitality of a skeleton that was half a step to the upper god state was very strong. Even if Night Sorrow could use the Forbidden Spear technique 10 times in a row, he might not be able to kill all of them in one breath. If I want to break the record of the 4th level, I must break through the encirclement and go through the levels. I can't rely on the 1,000 Catty Demon Spear. The record that Ao Qingwu had set was really insane. Before Night Sorrow officially started the challenge, he could not help but look at the layout of the 4th level. In the first 3 levels, he had used 1,000 Catty Demon Spear to kill the skeletons guarding the levels. He did not pay attention to where the entrance was. After looking at the 4th level, Night Sorrow realized that he was on a round platform. The platform was not big, but it was connected to 9 passages. The 9 passages extended into the distance and should be connected to 9 doors. Looks like this is where the difficulty lies. I have to figure out the rules as soon as possible. If Night Sorrow activated the power of Merit and Star's mighty body, His speed would be similar to that of a body-tempering exalted god. Although the 9 skeletons that were half a step to the upper god state could slow him down, they could not stop him. The problem that Night Sorrow was facing was how to find the exit. Let's start the challenge of the 4th level. No matter how much he thought about it, he might as well give it a try. When the challenge of the 4th level began, the 9 skeletons that were half a step to the upper god state appeared and surrounded Night Sorrow. After activating the power of Merit, Star's mighty body, in essence smoke, Night Sorrow used all his strength and rushed out of the encirclement of the skeletons in about 3 breaths. Let's leave it to fate. The skeletons behind him chased after him. Night Sorrow ran directly to the passage closest to him. However, after about 1 breath, Night Sorrow ran to the end of the passage and saw another 9 passages. What's going on? Do I have to go through 9 passages in a row? In the end, Night Sorrow realized that there were 81 passages. This was because he had to choose 9 times, and each time, he had to choose one of the 9. This time, he chose randomly and didn't find the exit in the end. Many breaths of time had passed. Helpless, Yishan could only choose to give up. At this time, the puppet reminded him, if you want to find the exit, you have to make 9 choices in a row. You have to make the right choice each time to find the way to pass the level. It seems that there is a pattern in this. Chapter 2430. But this time, Night Sorrow failed again. Not only this time, but he also failed in the dozens of subsequent attempts. I don't believe that I can't figure it out. The continuous failures had aroused Night Sorrow's passion. Since then, he had continued to research. After 10 years and countless experiments, Night Sorrow finally found some clues. It turned out that the skeleton guardians on the 4th level were related to the 9 stars. The 9 stars were Tian Peng Star, Tian Rui Star, Tian Chong Star, Tian Fu Star, Tian Qin Star, Tian Xian Star, Tian Ren Star, Tian Zhu Star, and Tianing Star. During the battle, Night Sorrow found that there was a small mark on each skeleton guardian's skull, which represented a star. The Heavenly Heart Star, the Heavenly Trust Star, the Heavenly Bird Star, and the Heavenly Auxiliary Star are the 4 auspicious stars. The Heavenly Rush Star is the 2nd most auspicious star. The Canopy Star, the Heavenly Rui Star, and the Heavenly Pillar Star are the 3 ominous stars. Which one represents the direction of the exit? Night Sorrow knew a little about the 9 stars, but he didn't understand it very well. Then he studied the passageway and found that every choice of the passageway was related to the 9 stars. Every fork represented a star. Looking carefully, he could find the signs of the 9 stars, but they were all randomly distributed, and the order was very chaotic. Every time the same star is chosen, it should form a passageway. But why doesn't this work? It seems that the guardians are related to the passageway. After 5 years of repeated research, Night Sorrow had completely figured out what was going on and had successfully passed the 4th level. It turned out that he had to defeat a skeleton guardian and activate the star passageway it represented. Every passageway had to choose the same star. That way, he could pass the level. But when Night Sorrow passed the level for the first time, he had only tried. He didn't chase after time, so the time he took to pass the level was very long. This time, I should be able to break the record. After 10 years of research, I'm really tired. After understanding the rules of the 4th level, Night Sorrow immediately activated his power of Merit, Essence Chi Smoke Beacon, and Astral Tyrant Body. He also held the 1,000-kilogram demon-subduing spear in his hand. When the 4th level challenge began, Night Sorrow used the 1,000-caddy demon-subduing spear to kill the skeleton guardian representing the hero planet as quickly as possible. Then he chose the hero planet's passageway and successfully set a new record for the 4th level. The 4th floor of the challenge tower is a success. A new record was born. The record is set by Night Sorrow in 8 breaths. When Night Sorrow completed the challenge, the Endless Bone Realm immediately resounded with a deafening announcement. After more than 10 years, The entire East Valley City was filled with exclamations upon hearing the announcement of a successful challenge. Even the record of the 4th level was broken by Night Sorrow. This shocked many people. After all, this record was just set by Ao Qingwu. East Valley City, one of the few remaining cultivators in the Endless Bone realm, immediately broke the silence of the past. It was bustling with activity, and quite a few cultivators had gathered to discuss the matter. If not for their fear of Feng Ling, many cultivators would have gathered at the sky-reaching bone tower. However, they were just onlookers and didn't understand the significance of this matter. When they heard the announcement, Feng Ling and Ao Qingwu were so shocked that they couldn't describe it with words, especially Feng Ling. He guessed that Night Sorrow had broken through to the god level of body refinement, and he felt endless pressure in his heart. Ao Qingwu knew that it was impossible for Night Sorrow to reach the god level of body refinement so quickly, but she was even more shocked than Feng Ling. She thought to herself, is he really stronger than me as a mid-level god-level body refinement feather god? Ao Qingwu's mood became complicated when she thought about how their battle had ended in a draw. However, she was still accepting the reward for breaking the record and didn't think too much about it. She continued to absorb the Genesis essence rewarded by the sky-reaching bone tower. After breaking the records of the 4th and 5th levels, the sky-reaching bone tower rewarded Ao Qingwu with 10 drops of Genesis essence, which increased her strength again. Begin the challenge of the 5th level. After recovering, Night Sorrow didn't stop and directly began the challenge of the 5th level. With the experience of the 4th level, the record of the 5th level was quickly broken by Night Sorrow. He found that the pattern of the 5th level was the same as the 4th level, except that the 9 stars were replaced by 9 palaces. Qian Palace, Qin Palace, Jin Palace, Zhun Palace, Zhong Palace, Sun Palace, Li Palace, Kuan Palace, and Dui Palace. This time, because he had killed a god-level body refinement skeleton guard and had to escape from the other 8 guards, he took a long time to break through. Night Sorrow took a longer time. He finished in 160 breaths, which was only 2 breaths faster than Ao Qingwu. Although the people in the Endless Bone region were numb to Night Sorrow's achievements, they were still greatly shocked when the record of the 5th level was broken. At this point, many people already believed that Night Sorrow had become the #1 person in the Endless Bone region. Many people even had the thought of following him. Zhu Yunxia, Holai, and Gengchun were all very excited. They originally didn't have much hope in saving Jing Yun, but now they felt that a miracle could happen. After that, Night Sorrow appeared on the 6th level of the challenge tower. After several attempts, Night Sorrow found that the skeleton guard on the 6th level was too strong for him to kill, so he gave up. Do you accept the reward? After Night Sorrow gave up, the puppet immediately asked, Accept. Of course I accept. Didn't I struggle for so many years to obtain a reward to increase my strength? Yishan nodded when he heard the puppet's question. This is the reward Master asked me to give you. After receiving Night Sorrow's confirmation, the puppet handed over a tattered book. This is my reward for breaking the record of the 5th level. What happened to the cultivation time, cultivation manuals, secret techniques, body tempering insights, and some other special rewards? Yishang asked with a puzzled expression as he received the tattered book. This is the Master's body tempering insights. It is very precious and is a special reward of the highest level. Because it is too valuable, you will not receive any other rewards, the puppet explained slowly. This? All right. Night Sorrow originally thought that he would receive a large reward, but now he felt that it was all for nothing. The sky-reaching bone pagoda's owner's body tempering insights should be very rare. With his notes, I might be able to upgrade the Myriad Tao treasure tome and create a divine realm chapter. Night Sorrow flipped through the book and confirmed that it was the sky-reaching bone pagoda's owner's notes. It mainly recorded his body tempering insights. Next, it recorded some past events related to the sky-reaching bone pagoda. Night Sorrow wasn't in the mood to study these past events. He used some crystal cores to exchange for 100 years of cultivation time in the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda's Tao Enlightenment Room. The price of cultivation time in the Tao Enlightenment Room was much cheaper than the cultivation room, but it was less safe than the cultivation room. Night Sorrow carried the 1,000 demon spear on his back and the Bone Pagoda's owner's notes in his hand. When he walked into the Tao Enlightenment Room, he smelled a fragrance. It was the smell of the Tao Enlightenment wine. It could refresh the mind and calm his mind. It would be great if I could drink some of Chu Yu's calming tea. Night Sorrow smiled when he thought about his wife and tribesmen on Night Moon Island. He was no longer the rookie who was at the mercy of others when he had just arrived in the realm of the gods. The Myriad Tao Treasure Tome, my old friend. It is time for us to become stronger together. Night Sorrow cleared his mind and started to study the Bone Pagoda's owner's notes. He wanted to create a Divine Realm chapter of the Myriad Tao Treasure Tome. Now, among his trump cards, there were the God-level Essence Chi Smoke Beacon, the 1,000-kilogram Demon Spear, the Astral Dominating Body, and the 7 Stars Rage. Chapter 2431. The first level of the Myriad Tao Treasure Tome was called the Blood Refining Realm, which was equivalent to the Chi Refinement Realm. The second level was the Muscle Strengthening Realm, which was equivalent to the Chi Refinement Realm. The third level was the Bone Tempering Realm, which was equivalent to the Core Formation Realm. The fourth level was the Spirit Consolidation Realm, which was equivalent to the Spirit Severing Realm. The fifth level was the Tao Querying Realm, which was equivalent to the Void Inquiry Realm. The sixth level was the Spirit Refinement Realm, which was equivalent to the Clear Heaven Realm. The seventh level was the Golden Body Realm, which was equivalent to the Sage Realm. The eighth level was the Undead Realm, and the ninth level was the Rebirth Realm. There was a blank page at the end, which probably corresponded to the God Realm. The creator of the Myriad Tao Treasure Tome probably hadn't broken through to the God Realm, which was why he didn't create the 10th level. Let me complete the content of the 10th level and beyond. Night Sorrow sat in the Tao Comprehension Room and studied the body refinement insights of the Bone Pagoda's owner. Creation was much more difficult than cultivation. His progress was very slow. The Myriad Tao Treasure Tome wasn't just used to strengthen the body, it could also improve the vitality and soul. Since Night Sorrow didn't have any insights to improve his vitality and soul, he could only start from the aspect of body refinement. He planned to divide the 10th level of the Myriad Tao Treasure Tome into 3 parts: body refinement, vitality, and soul. It corresponded to the lower feather god, middle feather god, and upper feather god. At the lower feather god realm, he only needed to consider body refinement to increase the strength of his body. In the future, he would obtain the God Realm cultivation technique and soul cultivation technique. Then he would supplement the vitality and soul. The body refinement insights of the Bone Pagoda's owner were not only related to the Feather God Realm, but also the High God Realm. Logically speaking, Night Sorrow didn't need to use the High God Realm, but after studying it, he gained a lot. He integrated the experience of the High God Realm into the Feather God Realm, and combined it with the insights of the Essence Chi Wolf Smoke. He gradually figured out the body refinement insights of the Feather God Realm in the Myriad Tao Treasure Tome. The process sounded simple, but it took him a whole 100 years. The first part of the 10th level of the Myriad Tao Treasure Tome, let's name it Wolf Smoke. After researching the Wolf Smoke, Night Sorrow exchanged for 1,000 years of cultivation time in the Tao Enlightenment Room and meditated there. It took Night Sorrow 700 years to consolidate his lower and middle divine feather body refinement realms. His body, which had already been strengthened by the Genesis essence of heaven and earth, was raised to a whole new level. This cultivation speed was all thanks to the Genesis essence. The cultivation process was equivalent to reabsorbing the Genesis essence, allowing it to display its true potential. My body's strength is probably on par with the average high gods. He reckoned that he would be able to withstand the backlash of the cultivation room. If he were to fight Feng Ling while enduring the backlash from the cultivation room, he would probably not be his match. If Ao Qingwu is willing to lend me a hand, it should not be too difficult to rescue Jingyan. However, when we meet again, it will definitely be a great battle. Why would she help me? Ao Qingwu was an enemy, not a friend. Night Sorrow felt that there was only one way to get her to help, and that was to defeat her. However, although his strength had increased tremendously, he was not completely confident that he could defeat Ao Qingwu. Moreover, 800 years had passed, and the matter of rescuing Jingyun was imminent. Looks like I have to think of a way to increase my power of virtue. There were countless skeletal creatures in the Endless Bone region. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow left the sky-reaching bone tower to hunt the skeletal creatures. However, when Night Sorrow first hunted the lower-level Feather God skeletons, his power of virtue increased. However, when his power of virtue increased to 60% of the lower-level Feather God skeletons, his power of virtue did not increase, even when he hunted the higher-level Feather God skeletons. In fact, he could increase his power of virtue by 20% for lower-level Feather God skeletons and 40% for middle-level Feather God skeletons. He estimated that killing the half-step height God skeletons would increase his power of virtue by 80%, and killing the lower-level high God skeletons would allow his power of virtue to advance to the middle-level Feather God level. Where can I find lower-level high God skeletons? Looks like I have to explore the entire Endless Bone region. After using more than 20 years to increase his power of virtue to 60% of the lower-level Feather God level, Night Sorrow decided to explore the unknown areas of the Endless Bone region. He had obtained many crystal cores over the years, but they were not enough to exchange for secret techniques. He decided to give them to Zhu Yunxia, Holai, and Gengchun, so that they could exchange them for high-level cultivation rooms. The three of them had been cooped up in the lower-level Feather God cultivation room, staring at each other. It was too awkward. In fact, they had been very depressed over the years. They even vented their anger on Feng Jiao. Their greatest expectation was to hear Night Sorrow's record-breaking broadcast. However, the broadcast had not appeared for hundreds of years. Brother Night Sorrow, it's so good to see you again. When he opened the door and saw Night Sorrow, Holai excitedly gave him a hug. All these years, they were no different from being imprisoned. Zhu Yunxiao was more thoughtful. She asked worriedly, "We haven't left the cultivation room all these years. I wonder if there's any news from Miss Jingyan?" They had tortured Feng Jiao many times over the years, asking her to contact Feng Ling's people, but Feng Jiao had never contacted them. "There's no news from Jingyan for now. I'll go rescue her soon. I still need to make some preparations," Night Sorrow explained. Although the matter of rescuing Jingyan was urgent, if he was not fully prepared, it would be tantamount to suicide. It would be meaningless. He glanced at Feng Jiao and did not ask anything for now. He told everyone about Ao Qingwu so that they could understand the current situation in the Endless Bone region. The others were no longer a threat to the three of them. The current Endless Bone region had formed a tripartite balance of power. Brother Night Sorrow, you're really a genius at cultivating your body. I, Gengchun, am completely convinced. I believe that those of us who are not talented enough will leave the Endless Bone region soon. Hearing this, Gengchun, who did not like to talk, was a little excited. Gengchun's greatest expectation was that Night Sorrow would make the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda recognize him as its master and take them out of the Endless Bone region. He had people he cared about outside. Brother Gengchun, don't worry. After I rescue Jingyun, I'll challenge the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda's challenge tower. Night Sorrow patted Gengchun's shoulder. The sky-reaching Bone Pagoda was a divine artifact for cultivating one's body. No one wanted to miss it. He estimated that after his strength increased, he would be able to break through the 6th level of the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. The only difficulty was the final level. The sky-reaching Bone Pagoda Skeleton Guardian was too powerful. Brother Night Sorrow, we won't be of much help to you in the Endless Bone Pagoda, but once we leave the Bone Pagoda, we'll follow your lead and fight for you. I will fight for you. Gengchun cupped his fists and swore. We're brothers. No need to be so polite. there will definitely be opportunities to fight together. There's no need to follow my lead. Night Sorrow helped Gung chin up, then looked at Zhu Yunxia and said, "This time, I'm here to give you cultivation essence crystals." Then, Night Sorrow gave them all the essence crystals he had hunted recently. He took them to exchange for an upper-level feather god cultivation room. After entering the new cultivation room, Night Sorrow looked at Feng Jiu and said, "Think of a way to contact Feng Ling's people and find out how things are going on his side. When I kill Feng Ling in the future, I'll release you." "Yes, I'll contact Feng Yi right away." Facing Night Sorrow, Feng Jiu felt a lot more pressure than before. The fear in her heart grew even stronger. Without another word, she began to contact Feng Yi. What a bastard. In these past few years, no matter how much Zhu Yunxia and the others tortured her, Feng Jiu never contacted Feng Yi. Now that Night Sorrow said it, she did as she was told. Chapter 2432. Boss, how's Master Feng Ling's matter going? I've been cooped up in the cultivation room for a few hundred years. The crystal cores have all been used up. I'm afraid I'll be kicked out soon. If I'm kicked out, I'm afraid I'll be caught by Night Sorrow and my life will be in danger. Without Master, no one could deal with that guy anymore. Feng Jiu carefully glanced at Night Sorrow and pondered for a while before organizing his words and speaking to the twin shells. Feng Ling was a very suspicious person and would only contact Feng Yi. Only Feng Jiu could contact Feng Yi. Feng Jiu knew that the two of them definitely didn't know that he was captured by Night Sorrow. "Feng Jiu, why haven't you done anything for so many years? I thought you were killed by Night Sorrow." Not long after Feng Jiu spoke, Feng Yi's voice came from the inner shell. His voice sounded a little agitated. Obviously, he still cared about Feng Jiu. "Sigh. I'm afraid of delaying your and Master's cultivation, but I really can't wait anymore." Feng Jiu's face suddenly showed a trace of helplessness. If his life wasn't at stake, he wouldn't have chosen to betray. Seeing that Feng Jiu's expression was a little conflicted, Night Sorrow's aura immediately erupted. Seeing that Night Sorrow was about to explode, Feng Jiu hurriedly continued to chat with Feng Yi. After asking, he got good news and bad news. The good news was that Feng Ling's matter of seizing the bloodline was delayed for 300 years because of the pressure from Night Sorrow and Ao Qingwu. Feng Ling wanted to improve Jingyun's strength as much as possible. This way, after seizing the bloodline, his strength would leap further. The bad news was that after Feng Yi obtained the Body Refinement Treasure Book, he already had strength close to a Body Refinement High God. He should be able to break through to Body Refinement High God in the near future. His strength could be said to have improved by leaps and bounds. In addition to these two things, Night Sorrow also learned a big thing. That was that Ao Qingwu forced her way into Feng Ling's cultivation room 300 years ago and fought with Feng Ling under the attack of the cultivation room. In the end, she was seriously injured and barely escaped. It seems that the lightning attack of the cultivation room is really terrifying. In the next 200 years, I must continue to improve. Only then will I have the chance to save Jingyun. After clarifying the situation, Night Sorrow asked Feng Jiu to find an excuse to cut off the connection. Then, he bid farewell to Zhu Yunxia and the others and left the sky-reaching bone tower to explore the Endless Bone region. He didn't want to delay the improvement of his strength for even a second. The Endless Bone region had the soul-devouring evil wind and a large number of skeletons. There were many areas that no one had explored yet. Although Night Sorrow was only a mid-level divine feather, his true strength was comparable to that of an ordinary lesser high god. Ordinary, soul-devouring evil winds were no longer a threat to him. After roughly 100 years, Night Sorrow finished exploring the entire Endless Bone region. He found 2 hidden great formations and obtained 12 drops of Genesis Essence. He no longer had any use for the Genesis Essence, so he had placed it in the same treasure trove as before, which was the valley where Feng Ling's possessions were hidden. Night Sorrow had encountered 5 half-celestial level skeletons. He had killed all of them and gained some merit power, but he had not encountered a single one of them. As a result, he had encountered a bottleneck in his strength. However, on this day, Night Sorrow, who had been aimlessly searching for high god skeletons in the Endless Bone region, suddenly saw Ao Qingwu, who had not appeared for 100 years, enter the terrifying Black Wind Pillar. Why is Ao Qingwu going into this terrifying wind pillar? Night Sorrow still remembered the Black Wind Pillar area. When he had first entered the Endless Bone region, he had been besieged by skeletons here. Night Sorrow was puzzled when he saw Ao Qingwu enter the Wind Pillar. However, he did not hesitate and followed her into the Wind Pillar to find out what was going on. Since Ao Qingwu dared to enter, there was nothing he did not dare to do. The soul-devouring evil wind here is very strong. The Black Wind Pillar was quite harmful to cultivators, but Night Sorrow activated the star's tyrant body to resist it and did not suffer any damage. However, after passing through the Black Wind Pillar and entering a new world, Night Sorrow felt as if the soul-devouring evil wind was scraping his face. It was even stronger than the Black Wind Pillar. Before Night Sorrow's eyes was a world of darkness. Mountains had collapsed and the earth had cracked. There were broken walls everywhere, and the ground was like 10,000-year-old cold iron, cold and solid. The whole world was silent and colorless. It gave off an extremely oppressive and evil aura of death. The aura here is 100 times more terrifying than the Endless Bone region. I'm afraid there are more powerful creatures here. Ao Qingwu would not have entered this world for no reason. Now, her figure had long since disappeared. Although Night Sorrow did not feel good about this world, he still went in one direction to find out why Ao Qingwu had entered this world. There are indeed powerful skeletons here. After traveling for 100,000 miles in the dark, Night Sorrow stood on top of a mountain and saw a huge crater on the ground in the distance. Skeletons kept coming out of the crater. Most of the skeletons were upper-level divine feathers, but there were occasional half-step upper god level skeletons. The frequency was about 1 in 10,000 miles. After these skeletons walked out of the cave, they would wander aimlessly and eventually disappear into the darkness. There must be something strange in the crater. Although it was dangerous to enter the crater, Night Sorrow did not hesitate. He jumped down from the mountain and ran toward the place where the skeletons kept coming out of. There were too many skeletons. A battle was inevitable. Night Sorrow, holding the 1,000-kilogram demon spear, turned into a ray of light and went straight for the skeletons. Soon he started killing. There were too many skeletons, including half-step upper god level skeletons. Besides, the soul-devouring evil wind was very violent. Night Sorrow used up a lot of energy in the battle. However, every time he killed a half-step upper god skeletons, he would receive golden merit power. It was not a loss. However, there were too many upper-level divine feather skeletons, and they were too much of a hindrance. I wonder if the upper-level divine feather skeletons will retreat if I use the merit power to protect myself. When Night Sorrow was in the Endless Bone region, he was only a lower-level divine feathers body refinement cultivator. When he used the merit power to protect himself, the low-level skeletons would retreat. Now, he was a middle-level divine feathers body refinement cultivator. When he tried to use the energy shield, he found that all the upper-level divine feathers god skeletons would retreat. Only the half-step upper god skeletons would continue to attack. This way, not only was the pressure less, but the efficiency of collecting merit power also increased. If he stood at the edge of the crater and killed the half-step upper god skeletons, in 20 years, Night Sorrow's merit power would increase to 80% of that of a lower-level divine feathers body refinement cultivator. However, he did not stay for long. He walked along the edge of the crater and kept going. With the merit power protecting him, he could save a lot of trouble. He only needed to kill the half-step upper god skeletons. He walked along the slanted and narrow crater and kept going underground. After about 30,000 miles, Night Sorrow gradually felt that the strength of the soul-eating evil wind had increased to a level that was unbearable for him. At the same time, his perception in the dark was further reduced. He could not even see things 100 meters away. This caused an indescribable pressure to rise in Yishang's heart. He thought to himself, will there be endless darkness if I keep going? Clang! At this moment, a figure in the darkness suddenly attacked and slammed into Yishang's chest. Knight's Sorrow, who was leaning against the wall, was directly smashed into the mud. It's a sneak attack with the strength of a superior god. Knight's Sorrow, who was attacked by the sneak attack, felt that his chest was almost broken. He knew that this sneak attack was from a superior god. Chapter 2433. If an ordinary person was ambushed by a powerful enemy in such a depressing environment, they would definitely be frightened. However, Yishang had been through too many storms, and his mental state had been polished to perfection. Therefore, he wouldn't be alarmed even if the sky collapsed or lightning struck his head. Great! I was just worried about meeting an opponent of the upper immortal state to hone my combat skills. Yisaro, who had shouted in the darkness, used the strength of his body to break out of the ground. However, before he could attack, the shadow that had ambushed him disappeared into the thick darkness again. In the pitch-black darkness, there were only the occasional footsteps of the moving skeletons. You have the strength of an upper immortal, but you have to sneak up on me. In the dark, Night Sorrow needed to support the power of merit to fight against the soul-eating evil wind. His body was glowing with golden light, which was quite eye-catching. He simply continued to move forward. From time to time, he would kill skeletons that were half a step away from the upper immortal state to increase his power of merit. He continued to move forward, but the shadow did not appear. However, Night Sorrow could sense danger. He had a feeling that he was being watched. This kind of feeling was very uncomfortable. If you still don't come out, I will continue to move forward and explore the bottom of the giant pit. I will see what is there and then leave. In the dark underground world, there were too many barriers to perception. Night Sorrow had no way of finding the black shadow that had ambushed him, so he could only continue to move forward. Here it comes. This time, Night Sorrow had not walked for more than 1,000 miles when he encountered a skeleton that was half a step away from the upper immortal state. He had just swung his 1,000 catty demon spear when he felt a gust of wind behind his head. Night Sorrow's hair stood on end. He quickly turned his spear and fired. Boom! This time, the 1,000-kilogram devil-vanquishing spear collided with a long, hard rock. Countless sparks flew out from the collision, lighting up the surroundings. With the help of the dim light, Night Sorrow saw that the ambusher was a pale, ape-like creature. This ape-like creature was about the same size as a human cultivator, but its eyes were blood red and its skin was sickly pale. Furthermore, it had no hair and its limbs were like suction cups that were sucking on the wall in midair. However, the moment Night Sorrow saw it, it flashed and disappeared into the darkness. Although he's a high deity, he doesn't seem to be very strong. In the battle just now, Night Sorrow noticed that these hairless monsters were only slightly stronger than half-step skeletons. They were barely at the level of lesser gods in body refinement, but they weren't particularly strong. But why did I feel that the opponent's aura was so terrifying the first time I was ambushed? Could it be that there was more than one hairless monster here? If there are too many celestial tier monsters, it will be dangerous. Night Sorrow was bold, but meticulous. He quickly figured out that something was wrong. Although the two ambushers had the same aura, their strength was different. No, I can't go any deeper. Although Night Sorrow was confident in his own strength, he wasn't so arrogant as to think that he could defeat several high god level monsters. Now, there were at least 2 high god level hairless monsters. Sensing that something was wrong, he immediately turned and retreated to the entrance. However, Night Sorrow had noticed it a little too late. As soon as he turned and retreated, a black shadow attacked him head-on. Night Sorrow was very familiar with this aura. It was the black shadow that attacked him the first time. It was very fast and ferocious. Again, don't even think about it this time. Although his perception was still weak in the dark, he could only see up to 100 meters away. The Black Shadow's sneak attack was also very fast. However, Night Sorrow was prepared at this time. Naturally, the sneak attack wouldn't succeed. The moment the Black Shadow appeared, Night Sorrow directly raised his spiritual essence smoke, combined with the power of merit and the stellar body. He used a 1,000-ton demon-subduing spear to launch a forbidden attack. Clang! With a loud bang, the tip of Night Sorrow's spear collided with the Black Shadow. In the light of the collision, Night Sorrow saw that this was a larger, hairless monster, twice the size of the previous one. Its strength was also much stronger than the previous one, but it was still sent flying by Night Sorrow's full-strength attack. Although Night Sorrow's body refining level wasn't very high, his true body refining strength was not inferior to that of an ordinary lower deity tier body refining. Coupled with the use of various means, although he didn't kill the hairless monster in a second, he still sent it flying into the wall. "How dare you sneak attack me? I'll kill you." Night Sorrow, who had succeeded in his attack, suddenly spread out some of the power of virtue around him, illuminating the surroundings. He was ready to continue attacking and kill the injured hairless monster. Although the effect of resisting the soul-devouring evil wind was weakened, at this time he activated his spiritual essence smoke and wasn't affected much. 3 god-tier hairless monsters. But as soon as the area within 100 miles was illuminated, Night Sorrow was shocked. Because in addition to the hairless monster he was about to continue attacking, and the one that was barely at the level of a supreme deity, there was an even stronger one hanging on the stone wall not far away. The aura of this monster was incomparably strong, and there was a strong, murderous aura on its body. It had obviously experienced countless killings. Being stared at, Night Sorrow couldn't help but shudder. It felt as if his life was locked and no longer belonged to him. It's very likely that this is a middle deity tier hairless monster. Even if it's a one-on-one fight, I might not be a match for it. Now that it's 1 against 3, I'll definitely die. If I don't run now, when will I? At this moment, Night Sorrow was in no mood to continue attacking. He withdrew his power of merit and ran with all his might toward the entrance of the sinkhole. Fortunately, the strongest hairless monster was a certain distance away from him and was not in the direction of the entrance. With his life in danger, Night Sorrow was ready to use the secret technique, 7-star Rampage, and he was ready to burn his blood essence and absorb it with the ultimate physical conditioning art. Roar! The 2 weaker monsters were obviously not as fast as Night Sorrow and were soon left behind. However, the last one that was discovered let out a ferocious roar and chased after them. Soon, the distance between the 2 sides was shortened. From 100 miles away, it shortened to about 30 miles. This is at least a middle deity tier monster. Otherwise, it's impossible to have such speed. In terms of speed, I'm definitely no match for it. I can only use this move now. At this critical moment, Night Sorrow had an idea. He turned all his power of merit into a dragon of merit and attacked the monster that was chasing after him, hoping to slow it down. In the celestial realm, Night Sorrow had been using his power of merit to defend himself. But the fire of merit was effective against all kinds of dark creatures. Otherwise, some of the skeletons in the Endless Bone realm would not have retreated when they saw him activate his power of merit. Roar! The hairless monster that was chasing after Night Sorrow with all its might did not expect Night Sorrow to have such an attack. It could not dodge in time and was burned by the fire and screamed in pain. However, Night Sorrow's power of merit was relatively low in level. The hairless monster was only delayed for a moment before it caught up with him again. Its aura was even more ferocious than before. Chapter 2434. 30,000 miles was not far for Night Sorrow, whose body had reached the level of a high god. However, the ferocious hairless creature behind him was too fast. As it chased after him, Night Sorrow felt immense pressure. In terms of absolute speed, I don't have the advantage. It's not realistic to try to escape with speed. Since that's the case, let's fight. The situation in front of him clearly showed that there was no way to escape. His body was in a state of running, but Knight Sorrow's heart was filled with a strong fighting spirit. He was ready to attack at any time. However, he did not attack immediately. Instead, he continued to escape toward the entrance of the sinkhole. He did this to increase the distance between him and the two weaker, furless creatures. If he defeated them one by one, he might have a chance of winning. If it was 1 against 3, he would definitely die miserably. At this critical moment, Knight Sorrow gradually calmed down and waited for an opportunity to come. This had always been his fighting style. Close, when he was 20,000 miles away from the sinkhole's entrance. The distance between the two sides was reduced to only 20 miles. In fact, this was already a distance that could be attacked. However, Knight Sorrow was still running forward. The furless creature chasing after him had no chance to attack. It was so anxious that it kept roaring, shaking off some rocks. At this time, the second furless creature chasing after him was already 2,000 miles away. The furthest one was further away from Knight Sorrow. Its strength was indeed much weaker. Here's my chance. 7-star Berserk Dubby. Suddenly, Knight Sorrow, who was waiting for an opportunity to attack, directly used the 7-star Berserk that he had never used before. The 7-star Berserk was divided into 7 levels: Dubhi, Merak, Fekta, Migrez, Alioth, Mizar, and Alkaid. This time, Knight Sorrow's Dubhi could actually be called a 1-star Berserk. Its strength doubled. The secret technique, 7-star Berserk, would quickly backfire after using it. Knight Sorrow did not want to use the strongest Alkaid until the moment of life and death. Eat my forbidden spear. After using the 7-star Berserk Dubhi, Knight Sorrow's body bloomed with intense starlight. The 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear also bloomed with dazzling light, illuminating the whole dark world. Roar! The furless creature that was still running away didn't expect Knight Sorrow to suddenly turn around. It was too late for it to stop, so it could only swing its huge claws to meet the attack. After the two of them exchanged blows, the furless creature that responded in a hurry was directly sent flying. However, its body was very strong, so it did not suffer any serious injuries. Knight Sorrow's attack power was still a little lacking against a hairless mid-high god. A large area nearby was shattered into rubble and fell down the slope. For a moment, the entire pit rumbled, and a large amount of smoke and dust was raised. This dust was mixed with a sense of evil and coldness, giving people an extremely uncomfortable feeling. Knight Sorrow, who was slightly affected by the dust, suddenly felt a little restless. He did not turn around to escape. Instead, he used the 7-star Berserk Sky Jade and continued to increase his combat strength. Once again, he fired the forbidden spear at the mid-high god. This time, the slightly injured hairless creature was prepared. However, it had underestimated Knight Sorrow's strength. It thought that the power of this move was the same as the previous one, and was sent flying again. Twice, the hairless creature with the strength of an intermediate great god was sent flying. Furthermore, the rubble had basically blocked off the bottom of the sinkhole for thousands of miles. Knight Sorrow became more and more courageous as he fought. As he roared, he tripled his strength and thrust out his spear once more. The hairless creature that had just gotten up was blasted away again. Roar! Suffering consecutive losses and suffering heavy injuries, the hairless creature's manic blood was stimulated. It roared at the sky, and its body suddenly became 10 times larger. Its originally pale body glowed with an evil black light, and its scarlet eyes were completely black. In an instant, the furless creature's evil aura soared to the sky. That dark, evil aura made people feel very uncomfortable. Even Knight Sorrow felt like his mind was being affected. He shook his head and used the power of virtue to dispel the dark aura around the furless creature. This evil aura has the effect of confusing one's mind. If not for the power of virtue protecting him, Night Sorrow would have been at a disadvantage despite his strong willpower. After dispelling the evil aura, he felt a lingering fear. If an ordinary cultivator encountered this dark aura, they would not be able to withstand it. Just as Night Sorrow was momentarily stunned, the enlarged furless creature suddenly roared and attacked him. The dark furless creature looked like an ape, but it was not at all. Its movements were extremely agile, like a ghost. In an instant, it was in front of Night Sorrow. Its attack was not only physical, but also came from the dense dark aura. As it approached, Night Sorrow felt his soul begin to corrode. Using the power of virtue to continue dispelling the dark aura, Night Sorrow's counterattack was a little slower, and he was sent flying by the claw. Even with Night Sorrow's strong body, he was still dizzy from the slap. Before he could react, the furless creature roared and attacked again. Then, the two of them fought back and forth for a few rounds. However, after a few rounds, although Night Sorrow did not suffer any losses, the two behind him caught up. He could even hear the sound of them breaking stone. This can't go on. I can only go all out and see if I can kill this monster. If I can't, I'll escape with all my strength. Although the previous few attacks had injured the furless creature, they did not cause any substantial damage. This time, Night Sorrow went all out. Not only did he activate the power of virtue, Essence Chi Smoke, and Star's Tyrant Body to the limit, but he also used the 7 Stars Berserk Alcade, directly increasing his strength by 7 times. At the same time, his battle intent had also been refined to a new level. Once again, he shortened his left arm and used the limitless body forging art to absorb it. After that, he used the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear to display the strongest forbidden spear move. This forbidden spear move was different from the usual. It fused the essence of the simple 10 spear moves. With the support of his strong body, he directly stabbed out 10 forbidden spear shadows. In an instant, the void was torn apart. The 10 forbidden spear shadows were like shooting stars, incomparably bright, all bombarding the furless creature's body. This time, the furless creature's body was not sent flying. Instead, it directly exploded, turning into a black blood fog. Not good. This black fog is so corrosive. Night Sorrow, who was very close, was surrounded by this black blood fog in an instant. His body was completely enveloped by the black blood fog. Night Sorrow's soul trembled, feeling a huge impact. Extremely violent thoughts rose in his heart, and he had a feeling of wanting to escape into the darkness. I want to return to the Endless Bone region and kill all the cultivators. I want to become the ruler of darkness. I want to return to High Bay City and slaughter billions of people. In an instant, Night Sorrow's thoughts all turned black. However, the backlash of the 7 Stars Berserk secret technique came quickly. He directly collapsed to the ground, completely losing the ability to get up. If not for this, Night Sorrow was afraid that he would directly rush back to the Endless Bone region and start a bloody massacre. At the same time, the 2 furless creatures chased after him one after another. Chapter 2435. In the dark sinkhole, the skeletons that kept walking out from the depths were temporarily blocked by the falling rubble. Night Sorrow's soul was corroded by the evil aura and the backlash from the 7-star Berserk. He was paralyzed on the ground. The 2 furless high celestial beasts saw that Night Sorrow was surrounded by the black aura and did not immediately attack. They knew that although the middle-high celestial hairless creature had been reduced to a bloody mist, it had not failed. It had turned into dark aura and corroded Night Sorrow's soul. If it succeeded, it would be able to control Night Sorrow's soul and thoughts, and Night Sorrow's soul would be completely suppressed. In that case, he would only exist in name. Who am I? I am the ruler of slaughter. I am the harbinger of darkness. I am Dark Demon Divine Lord Spokesperson. Night Sorrow's mind was filled with all kinds of dark thoughts. These were actually the thoughts of the hairless creature. The aura of darkness could affect a person's mind. Dark Demon Divine Lord spokesperson? Who is Dark Demon Divine Lord? How can I be his spokesperson? Knight Sorrow, who felt that he had lost control of himself, trembled when this name appeared in his mind. No, I am Knight Sorrow. I am the feather god of merit. I am not anyone's spokesperson. I am me. I am the future sovereign. Demons and monsters disperse. Boom. Yi Shang's body, which had been enveloped by the black blood mist, suddenly exploded with endless golden light. After a short moment of silence, the power of virtue erupted completely. The light seemed to have turned into a sharp sword. No, I will not accept this. Dark Demon Divine Lord, my master, save me. With the support of the power of merit, Knight Sorrow's soul completely recovered. The black mist quickly receded. The moment the black fog dissipated, a roar of unwillingness rang out from the sinkhole. This voice made one's heart palpitate, giving one an incomparably evil feeling of oppression. Then, the hairless creature turned into golden light and turned into power of merit that entered Knight Sorrow's body. Knight Sorrow's power of merit, which was around 70% of his power of merit, rose to the middle celestial level. He exuded a sense of holiness. I can't believe I got so much power of virtue from killing a hairless, mid-level high god. Although Knight Sorrow was mentally prepared, he was still surprised by the sudden increase in power of merit. However, before he could rejoice, he realized a serious problem. He was now at the end of his rope. Although his power of merit had increased, he had basically used up all his other energy. It would take many years for him to recover. He had completely lost the ability to fight. It was impossible for him to fight two lower high celestial furless beasts with just the power of virtue. After Knight Sorrow successfully destroyed the furless creature's invasion and obtained the power of good karma, the two lower high celestial furless monsters went completely berserk. His aura soared as he prepared to tear Knight Sorrow apart. Am I going to die here like this? The backlash of the Seven Stars' rage is indeed terrifying. He had no strength left in his body and was as limp as mud. Yi Shang felt rather helpless. However, if he had not attacked with all his might, he would not have been able to kill the middle celestial level hairless creature. If he had delayed for a while and allowed the other two to come, he would have been in a worse situation. Now, he could only use the power of merit that he had just obtained. However, the power of merit of a middle celestial level was not enough to burn the two upper celestial level hairless creatures to death. At most, it could only delay their attacks. Get lost. He's my prey. At this moment, a half-male, half-female voice suddenly came from the entrance of the crater. A moment later, a slim figure appeared on the spot. She was Ao Chinwu. After being scolded, the two hairless creatures seemed to have encountered a great disaster. They were so scared that they quickly ran toward the depths of the crater. Ao Chinwu, why is your voice like this? It was Ao Chinwu, but her voice was half male and half female. Hearing this voice, Knight Sorrow shivered awkwardly. Soon he saw some clues. At this moment, Ao Chinwu was very close to him. Under the light of the power of merit, he could see that there was an endless evil black aura on her body. Her eyes had turned completely red, and there was an extremely evil look in her eyes. She must have fought with these dark creatures and had her soul eroded. If I had failed just now, I would have ended up like her. How terrifying. Knight Sorrow was scared. However, he soon laughed at himself. He thought that his current situation was not much better than Ao Chinwu's. He did not know what was waiting for him. At this point, Knight Sorrow understood that he had been deliberately led here by the other party. Ao Chinwu should have been controlled at that time. Ao Chinwu, she has been completely suppressed by me. There will be no such person in the future. I am the Dark Demon Divine Emperor's subordinate, exalted God Ongru. Ao Chinwu had a cold temperament, but there was an evil look on her face that made one's heart palpitate. She continued with an evil smile. I have led you here today because I want to subdue you and make you the spokesperson of the Dark Demon Divine Emperor. Cooperate with us to close the Endless Bone region and let the Dark Demon clan see the light of day again. Close the Endless Bone region? What's going on? Night Sorrow would not give in if the other party wanted to subdue him, not even if he had to die. However, he wanted to figure out what was going on, so he calmly asked in return. The name Dark Demon Divine Emperor gave him a lot of pressure. Not to mention the Endless Bone region. Even in High Bay City, no one could fight against the Divine Emperor. If such a terrifying evil existence was released, there would be no doubt that people would be plunged into misery and suffering. As the Feather God of Merit, Night Sorrow would not let such a situation happen even if he had to die in battle. The Endless Bone region exists to suppress the Dark Demon clan. The Heavenly Bone Pagoda is the core. As long as the Heavenly Bone Pagoda is brought out of the Endless Bone region, the Dark Demon clan will be able to appear in the Endless Bone region and in High Bay City within 100 years. As long as the Dark Demon Divine Emperor descends, all the cultivators in High Bay City will be controlled. They will follow us to battle and kill. Suppressing Ao Qingwu's anger, there was a hint of madness in her tone. She was originally an evil creature born in darkness and suppressed for countless years. The resentment in her heart had swelled to a certain extent. So the Endless Bone region also has the function of suppressing the Dark Demon clan. The Heavenly Bone Pagoda is the most important core. It is equivalent to the eye of the formation. Night Sorrow, who originally wanted the Heavenly Bone Pagoda to recognize him as its master and bring him back to the divine world for his family to refine his body, gasped at the thought. If he really made the Heavenly Bone Pagoda recognize him as its master and brought him away, High Bay City would be in great trouble. Now you know the ins and outs of the matter. Choose to submit or die. Night Sorrow remained silent. Suppressing Ao Qingwu's anger, he immediately threatened, "Kneel down and swear the oath of submission immediately. Otherwise, you will be torn apart. You are just one of the choices. You must know how to grasp the opportunity. I choose to submit to you. Kneel down and swear the oath of the heavenly Tao." Hearing these words, Night Sorrow's face showed a hint of disdain. Submit to these evil creatures living in darkness? How is that possible? He was the Feather God of Merit, the nemesis of these filthy creatures. Why? You don't choose to submit? Ao Qingwu's voice was filled with thick, killing intent. Since that is the case, go and welcome death. Chapter 2436. Ao Qingwu's anger was completely suppressed. She already had a strong desire to kill. Seeing that Night Sorrow refused to surrender, she chided him coldly. Then, she grabbed Night Sorrow's neck with one hand, lifted him up, and pressed him against the wall. Then, she turned her other hand into a claw and tore off a large piece of translucent flesh from Night Sorrow's chest. Night Sorrow's body had evolved to that of a middle-level divine feather god, but his strength was similar to that of a lower-level divine god. However, he was easily torn apart by Ao Qingwu. The area that was torn apart was immediately invaded by an evil dark aura. However, the dark aura was immediately dispelled by the power of merit in Night Sorrow's body. The power of merit was definitely the nemesis of the dark aura. Is this all you've got, the so-called divine god of the Dark Demon clan? Seeing that the power of merit had automatically dispelled the dark aura, Night Sorrow had an idea. He thought of a counterattack and cursed. I hope you can still be arrogant later. Ao Qingwu's demonic voice was cold from the inside out. This was the voice of an evil demon. After speaking, Ao Qingwu's body was controlled by Ao Qingwu. She turned her hand into a claw and stabbed it into Night Sorrow's chest. She wanted to dig out his heart. I'll let you have a taste of the most primitive way of killing. Ao Qingwu's cold voice was emotionless. It was as if she had come from hell. The voice coming from Ao Qingwu's body was extremely out of place. The most primitive way of killing? Why don't I show you something more advanced? Knight's Sorrow, whose heart was torn apart, suddenly roared, "Fire of merit, burn for me. Ao Qingwu, this is all I can do. I'll leave the rest to you." In an instant, a large amount of golden light bloomed around Night Sorrow's body. This golden light turned into a dragon of merit and coiled around Ao Qingwu's body. After doing all this, Night Sorrow had completely lost all ability to resist. He could only pin his hopes on Ao Qingwu. He hoped that she could defeat Dark Fury and regain control of her body. Although he was Ao Qingwu's enemy, Night Sorrow wanted to kill a dark creature like Dark Fury even more. When his soul was corroded by the hairless creatures, he felt the terrifying, murderous intent of these dark creatures. Being burned by the fire of merit, the black gas around Ao Qingwu's body was instantly burned away. Then, the power of virtue entered his body and continued to purify the aura of darkness. The black aura between Ao Qingwu's brows was much fainter. A bright light slowly rose up in his eyes. It was clear that she, who had been completely suppressed, suddenly felt a trace of life force and was desperately resisting. Ao Qingwu, don't disappoint me. After all, you used to be one of the 4 great experts of the Endless Bone Realm. Unleash some of your heart of the strong. Now, you are not only fighting for yourself, but also for the entire Endless Bone region. Night Sorrow, who was completely powerless, could only shout, hoping to stimulate Ao Qingwu's inner blood. She was a dragon. Her body and soul were strong to begin with, but now she was completely suppressed. Ao Qingwu continued to battle with Dark Fury. Her soul even felt like it was being torn apart, causing her to howl incessantly. This kind of roar sounded very scary, and it shattered the surrounding stone walls. It was very powerful. Her palms had completely turned into dragon claws, and she clawed at her surroundings continuously, completely out of control. It's not that easy to break free from my restraints. Ao Qingwu, you will forever be my servant. Don't struggle. It will only make you more painful. Then, Ao Qingwu spoke as if she was talking to herself. It was clear that Dark Fury was still in control now. Ao Qingwu, you are a dragon. You have a noble soul. Defeat it, kill it. Don't give it any chance. Even if Ao Qingwu won, she might not let him go, but Night Sorrow still hoped that she would win. At this moment, Night Sorrow noticed that the blood in Ao Qingwu's eyes had faded a lot, and her pupils had returned to black. It looked like she was recovering her lost ground. I said it's not that easy to break free from my restraints. However, after a while, Ao Qingwu's eyes turned blood red again, and she looked even more evil. No! When her eyes turned completely blood red, Ao Qingwu suddenly screamed. The situation was reversed once again, as if the wind and clouds were changing. Darkness descends. Every time Ao Qingwu struggled, she would be suppressed more violently. It was like a situation where the devil was 10 feet taller. Very soon, she was suppressed again. Dark Fury seemed to be invincible, and it could regain the upper hand every time. It was much more powerful than the hairless creature that Night Sorrow killed. They were not the same creature, and the strength of the dark aura was very different. I must do something. The battle between Ao Qingwu and Dark Fury had obviously entered the climax. Both of them had a chance of winning, but Dark Fury had a greater advantage. Night Sorrow was now under a few pieces of gravel, but he could see Ao Qingwu waving her claws crazily not far away. Ao Qingwu was facing Night Sorrow, and her eyes and facial expressions were all seen by him. Seeing that she was suppressed, Night Sorrow could not help but worry. He sent some of the power of merit that he had recovered into her body again. Activate. Bloodline of the True Dragon. The golden power of merit entered her body again, and Ao Qingwu's eyes became much clearer. Taking advantage of the short moment of clarity, she roared into the sky and activated the power of her bloodline. Although she was still in human form, her aura was many times stronger, and so was her soul. Her aura was completely different, and it gave people a sense of invincibility, as if she was a sacred ancestral dragon from ancient times. Oh no, she has activated the power of her bloodline, and it's very difficult to suppress her. Dark Fury sensed the change in Ao Qingwu's aura, and he immediately felt himself being suppressed. The situation that he originally had the upper hand had obviously changed. You want to reverse the situation? It's not that easy. Dark Fury, who had temporarily gained the upper hand and controlled Ao Qingwu's body, revealed an extremely evil smile. Then, he reached out and untied Ao Qingwu's robe, turning her into a little lamb in an instant. Dark Fury knew all the weaknesses of human nature, and he wanted to use this method to distract Ao Qingwu. As long as she was distracted, he would have an opportunity to take advantage of. Bastard, you deserve to die. Ao Qingwu had always been a reclusive and cold person. Even when interacting with friends, she had always maintained an appropriate distance and had never acted intimately. Now, her body was being controlled by Dark Fury, and she had taken off all her clothes, allowing Night Sorrow to see through her. This made her cheeks burn, and the anger in her heart completely exploded. She, who had already activated the power of her bloodline, instantly gained the upper hand, and this made Dark Fury feel even more pressure. At this moment, Night Sorrow maintained his see no evil mode and turned his head to the side. Just now, he did not expect Dark Fury, a great deity, to use such a despicable method to distract Ao Qingwu. Thus, he accidentally saw her naked, and it was very awkward. Ao Qingwu was from the Black Dragon clan, but she had already cultivated into a human body and was no different from a human cultivator. You're really not easy to deal with. But do you think this is the end? Impossible. Dark Fury, who had used his evil trick, felt that Ao Qingwu had become even more difficult to deal with under her anger. The next time he regained control of the body, for a short moment, controlling Ao Qingwu's body, he directly removed the rocks on Night Sorrow's body, pounced on him, and started to rub against him crazily. What is this? You two are fighting. Why are you using me? At this moment, Night Sorrow felt rather depressed. He had exhausted too much of his body, and he had no ability to resist at all. If he had the slightest ability to resist, he would not have allowed Dark Fury to do whatever he wanted. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.